Conquest manual in another world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, Building a Different World from Scratch. Just as the refugees were discussing what they had seen today in groups of 2 or 3, Yi Jinian, the chief engineer of Modao No. 2 Construction, and Lin Li quietly appeared at the entrance of the construction site. At this time, Yi Jinian held a construction drawing in his hand and said to Lin Li, who was wearing a yellow safety helmet, "Captain Lin, the workers' dormitories are all ready." The dormitory adopts a light steel frame composite color steel plate structure, which is a simple facility commonly seen at some disaster relief sites. The dormitory has bunk beds for 6 people, and the bathroom is shared. At present, most of the workers on the construction site are from the Great Mo realm, and there are 47 local professional technicians. Considering that the water supply for our construction site is still dependent on the transportation of the Magic City, there is a certain limit on the daily water quota per person, and tickets are required to enter the bathhouse. However, these are all transitional plans. At present, our water pump storage station, water plant and drainage pipelines have been prepared. The relevant equipment will be directly transferred from the Strategic Material Reserve base of the Magic City and is expected to be built soon. The same is true for power facilities. As you know, our reserves in this area have always been sufficient. At the same time, considering the upcoming night of the Great Mo realm, we have made sufficient night construction plans. If everything goes well, in about 3 days, it will be possible to achieve self-sufficiency in water supply for 500 people. In about a week, it will be able to bear the water consumption of the entire base's infrastructure, and in half a month, it will be able to bear the industrial water consumption. The workers in this area are some of the soldiers led by Captain Yan. Lin Li listened quietly to the side, and was not surprised at the number of 3 days. After all, the rabbits are well-known patients with late-stage hamster disease, and the reserves of various war preparation materials are full. They are afraid that if something happens one day, they will not be enough. Especially in a strategic location like the Magic City, it would be strange if there is no water conservancy equipment in the war preparation warehouse. In the past few years, the warehouse in Fu City replaced materials. Can you believe that there are more than 600 mahjong tables in the last statistical list? And they are the kind that automatically shuffle. Then Lin Li asked Yi Jinian, "Engineer Yi, in addition to the workers' dormitory area, how is the planning of the main area of our base going?" Yi Jinian adjusted his glasses, spread out the construction drawings, pointed to an area in the south and said, "According to the planning of the core layer, we will develop a large base of 3,000 acres, that is, 2 million square meters, nearby, with a scale of about 2,000 x 1,000 meters. Since there is no need for entertainment landscape areas such as gardens and leisure, the building area of the base will reach 1.7743 million square meters. The entire foundation is expected to be laid within 7 days, and the efficiency after the start of construction will depend on the number of refugees from Chixin City recruited in the next batch." Lin Li nodded with satisfaction. In other words, overall, our progress is still very fast at the moment, not long ago. Following the instructions from Shi Zheng on the scientific research project, many big guys in the imperial capital conducted many detailed discussions and finally decided on the general policy for the entire second phase, farming first and then doing things. No, it should be based on scientific research projects, exploring the unknown as the driving force, people's livelihood as the keynote, and green express delivery as the guarantee, slowly and effectively developing to the surrounding areas, so as to achieve harmony and stability in a certain area. In one sentence, it can be summarized as, focus on culture, use force, but do not use force first. The so-called focus on culture. In addition to scientific research tasks, it also includes the environment required for tasks, that is, the arrangement of infrastructure. According to the plan, the infrastructure tasks of the second phase will be expanded based on the Xinhao camp. A large and complete life experiment base will be expanded in the flat area above the valley. In the next very long period of time, the life experiment base will become the forefront of relevant research in the Great Mo world. The entire base will set up 13 national laboratories, 55 key laboratories at the academy level, 4 national engineering centers, and 6 analysis and testing centers. In addition, there will be 5 petaflop supercomputers. Of course, this refers to the scale of the base after its successful completion. Due to time constraints, the rabbits have planned a large number of laboratories. However, only about 1/3 of them can be built in the first phase and put into use. As for the scientific researchers needed by the base, there are currently more than 300 scientific researchers in the Xinhao camp, including 6 academicians, who have arrived in batches. After the first phase of the base is completed, the rabbits plan to send another 2,300 scientific researchers to the Damo realm, of which 20 academicians are initially scheduled. This number is not large, and there is no possibility of personnel transfer leaks. For example, the Chinese Academy of Sciences R&D Experimental Service Base, which was established on March 28, 2003, has 50,000 scientific researchers in the entire base, including more than 170 academicians. These are all scientific researchers who can access classified projects and have signed voluntary applications before joining the company. During some key tasks, it is not uncommon for a person to disappear for a year or two. In places like Modu, the number of recruits by research institutes is close to 50,000 people each year. Among them, the number of scientific researchers accounts for about 31.7%. Year after year, the total number of research graduate students in Shanghai is as high as 300,000. Not to mention the many provinces and municipalities in the country. A province often has 1 or 2 large experimental bases, and on average there is 1 provincial research institute for every 3 prefecture-level cities. Generally speaking, the number of official scientific researchers in each province is about 10,000 to 20,000. In addition, there are factories with numbers starting with 40, which have countless powerful people in various senses. As a superpower with a population of more than 1 billion, how can we play the game Earth Online without 7-digit official scientific researchers? Note, in 2011, there were 252,000 official scientific researchers with doctoral degrees and 566,000 with master's degrees in my country, with an annual increase of 13.5%. In 20 years, the total number has exceeded 2 million, excluding private enterprises. Reference: National Innovation Blue Book released by Tsinghua Technology Innovation Research Center, pages 22 to 24. If you use Baidu, you have to search for the keyword National Innovation Blue Book R&D personnel to find it accurately. There is no other reason, but they are afraid of being criticized. When the rabbits were working on Shiangang number 01, more than 4,000 people disappeared quietly for several years, and the eagle didn't find it from beginning to end. One of the very funny things is that we announced the plan to the public on September 28, 2008, and on September 21, the eagle still thought that we might announce the relevant plan for space rendezvous and docking technology in 2012. This is a declassified file published by the W-headed website in 2018. At that time, the old May of the May auction couldn't help but whip the corpse. This is also the source of the Miho stock. So, it is not a big problem for the rabbits to silently disappear thousands of scientific researchers. As for the confidentiality between personnel, it is even simpler. These scientific researchers who go to the Great Mo realm cannot return to their homeland within a year. At most, they are given some call time every week or month to contact their families through the equipment provided by the rabbits outside the light gate. Again, the number of rabbits is too large, and it is not difficult to keep a secret in the short term. Of course, it is hard to say in the long term. The site returns to the Great Mo realm. After the completion of the first phase of the construction task, the rabbits will officially start a new round of scientific research plans. The plan is based on Shi Zheng's previous retelling. The core is based on spiritual energy, and is divided into 4 important projects: cultivation, elixir, formation, and elixir. In addition, the rabbits will also formally carry out observations of the starry sky of the Great Mo realm in this phase of the plan to determine whether the Great Mo realm is really a triple star system. All the above scientific research and infrastructure plans belong to N, and the general sequence code is named Dawn. Note, I haven't written a note here for a long time, even though I was notified before that the book would be put on the shelves on May 1st. But today's matter is more important. A few days ago, a book by Wen Sanjiang next door touched the line. The content released at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the book was gone at 2 o'clock. You can treat it as a bug or ignore it. 2 updates today, and the next one will be at 2 o'clock. Chapter 52, building a different world from scratch. As mentioned above, the rabbit's plan is to focus on culture, and to use force, but not to use force first. The culture has been introduced. Then the rest is the force. According to the plan, the rabbits will build a military base about 10 kilometers away from the valley. The military base is adjacent to a large river, and is in the same area as the water plant, water pump station and other facilities. Of course, the hydraulic facilities are upstream. The same as the life experiment base. The military base is also divided into 3 phases of planning, and engineers are dispatched to build it. In the long-term plan, this military base will become a comprehensive strategic fortress and the main force gathering point of the rabbits in the Great Mo realm. While having high-intensity defense power, it will also form a large-scale land and air combat power. The minimum combat radius will not be less than 5,000 kilometers. But at the same time, due to the problems of material transportation and changes in physical constants, it may take a year or even longer for this long-term plan to be fully realized. After all, no one can become a fat man in one go, even Arjun eats one meal at a time. Therefore, in the first phase of the plan, which is relatively short-term operational, the main tasks of the military base have been simplified a lot. First, the base is responsible for the ballistic accuracy of the experimental weapons. After adjustment, the calculation task is completed by the valley base and the local area. Secondly, the base must quickly form a logistical capacity for the production, disassembly, assembly and maintenance of military equipment, and establish a power plant of initial scale. Due to the military transformation and replacement in the past 2 years, some military factories under the East War have retired a batch of production equipment. These production equipment do have some gaps in some aspects compared to the current batch of similar equipment that replaced them. But these gaps are mainly reflected in cost inefficiency. For example, the core chips of some equipment have been upgraded, which is more time-saving and energy-saving. In terms of the key structure and part accuracy of the products, these retired equipment's gap is actually not big. Otherwise, the products produced before the replacement would not be able to be supplied normally for more than 10 years. There will definitely be work damage, but there is no pressure to use them for another 5 or 6 years. According to the normal plan, this batch of retired equipment will be secretly transported to some mysterious caves through several routes in the depths and sealed, and the previous batch of equipment stored in the caves will be unsealed and destroyed. However, now with the start of construction of the Damoji military base, this batch of equipment that is about to be sealed has been quietly transported back. In addition, 3 generators also arrived with a production line. The total installed capacity of these 3 generators reached 1.44 million kilowatts, or 1,440 megawatts. The rabbits will use these 3 generators as the power center to build a thermal power plant. If the peak load problem is not considered, this power plant can supply about 21.6 million degrees of electricity per day. What is this concept? Normally, 10 million degrees of electricity can support the electricity consumption of a city with a population of 3 to 6 million for one day. But in the field of scientific research, this electricity is not very consumable. The rabbit's current top supercomputer Cheyenne 2 consumes about 200 to 300 million degrees of electricity per server per year, and it exceeds 400 million per minute when running at full speed. Cheyenne 2 only opened 1 server last year, and the total electricity bill was 100 million. The cost price of this kind of scientific research electricity is about 2 to 3 cents per degree. 8 servers consume a total of millions of degrees of electricity per day on average. Of course, 1 server is usually enough, and those who can fully start 8 servers are super large projects that are rare in a decade. Although the supercomputers equipped in the experimental base are still several levels behind Cheyenne 2, mainly because the better the supercomputer, the larger the server, it is normal for 2 or 3 to consume 4 or 5 million degrees of electricity per day. Not to mention other places that need electricity. Once the production line is officially put into operation, it will also be a big power consumer. The daily consumption of a helicopter production line starts at 1 million degrees. According to the rabbit's calculations, this power plant consumes about 2,000 tons of coal and over 17,000 tons of water every day. Although the proportion of hydropower generation is increasing every year, China is still mainly based on thermal power generation. The proportion of thermal power generation has almost never been lower than 75%, even in the Magic City. The amount of coal consumed in the Magic City is about 42 million tons per year, an average of 120,000 tons per day. In addition to the transit of the Jinling Railway, it is not difficult to free up the amount of coal needed by the Great Mo realm. So as long as the water plant is built, the rabbits can easily afford the daily consumption of the two power plants. After the thermal power plant is built, this area will form a downstream pattern with an upstream water plant and a downstream power plant. When the construction of the two important facilities is completed, the base will officially start the last link of the first phase of the mission, establish a military airport, and form a small air cluster with more than 5 fighter jets as soon as possible. That's right. This time the rabbits finally brought the fighter jets over. Considering the various data debugging issues in the Great Mo realm, the rabbits did not bring the J-20, a 4th-generation fighter that was officially put into service in 18 years, in the first batch, but chose the J-10, which is well known among the 3rd-generation fighters. After all, the J-10 has been in service for many years, and the debugging in all aspects is also extremely mature, including maintenance technology. At the same time, the J-10 uses a single vertical tail structure, compared with the 2 full-moving vertical tails of the J-20. The simulation effect of the J-10 under uncertain conditions is slightly higher. In the previous siege battle, the lack of air fire support was the biggest shortcoming of the rabbits. That battle was finally won without loss. First of all, it is true that the rabbits' ground firepower is powerful enough to eliminate nearly 10,000 ordinary or first-level monsters. The second reason is that those second-level monsters did not understand the power of the rabbits' missiles, and they took a heavy blow with their injured bodies. Otherwise, regardless of whether they could escape, at least they would have no problem taking a group of people with them before they died. It is not impossible for them to fly in the opposite direction and run to the position behind the mountain to self-destruct. After all, once this kind of extraordinary creature tries its best, its upper limit is completely unknown. Wasn't that what happened to the old man in green at the beginning? He killed a creature of the same level in one blow. At that time, Yan Shao had only one air defense company in his Novus team. If there was really a monster that burned its lifespan and swore to die, no one could tell what the result would be. Not to mention that according to the information provided by the Wei Mansion, there are actually flying monsters in the monster world. So for the rabbits, there is no sufficient air and space combat support. They are panicking. The maximum speed of the J-10 at high altitude is 2.0 Mach, which is 680.6 meters per second. The maximum speed at low altitude is 1.2 Mach, 408.36 meters per second. According to the model constructed by the Xinhero camp, the maximum speed of the J-10 is far less than that of a sword cultivator at the 4th level of the nascent soul, but it is slightly higher than that of an ordinary cultivator at the 2nd level of the nascent soul. If the J-10 can take off normally and the ammunition can be fired normally, there is a 92% chance of killing a cultivator at the 4th level of the core formation. So, if the J-10 fighter can be debugged smoothly, the rabbits can more or less put down 1,000th of their worries. In addition, the rabbits also transferred the parts of 4 armed helicopters. Before the J-10 is debugged, these 4 armed helicopters will take on the task of providing air firepower. In the rabbits' plan, the first phase of the military base will be completed within 3 months. The general sequence plan of the life experiment base is called Dawn, and the code name of the military base is Sky High. Chapter 53 Awakening the Spirit. Awakening the Spirit. At the same time as the construction site started work, a group of soldiers, led by Lin Ziming, quietly arrived outside the gate of the Wei family mansion. In the qualification test that was completed earlier, all members of the Xinhero camp, including scientific researchers, soldiers, and the engineering information team of the high-frequency base station outside the city, totaling more than 2,800 people, all underwent spiritual root tests. In the end, one person with 2 spiritual roots, that is Xiao Yi, 35 people with 3 spiritual roots, and 643 people with 4 spiritual roots were detected. At the same time, among the first batch of senior personnel in the Xinhero camp, only Wang Qiang, Lin Ziming, Ma Ning, and 2 other extras were detected with 4 spiritual root qualifications. The rest of the personnel were all 5 spiritual roots. The qualification test is completed, and the rest is to awaken the spirit. According to the information previously provided by the Wei Mansion, although there is no risk in the process of awakening the spirit, its success rate is not 100%. In terms of the current concentration of spiritual energy in the Great Mo realm, The probability of the awakening pill successfully awakening the spirit is about a little more than 60%. A prospective practitioner who wants to successfully awaken the spirit generally needs to swallow the awakening pill 2 to 3 times. In the long history of cultivation in the Great Mo realm, it is not uncommon for non-Africans to have to swallow 7 or 8 times or even dozens of times before they can awaken their spirits. Considering that the number of pills provided by Wei Mansion in the first batch is limited, the camp has specially screened the personnel participating in the awakening of spirits this time. After excluding 11 on-Maya Jiujianhe players including Wen Kaiyang at the beginning, the remaining hundreds of warriors were divided into 2 groups according to their spiritual roots. Through the mode of grabbing red envelopes, a round of luck competition was launched. In the end, the 20 luckiest European emperors except Xiao Yi and Lin Ziming were selected, and they were scheduled to go to Wei Mansion today to try to awaken their spirits. Among these 22 people, there is a total of 1 person with double spiritual roots, 6 people with 3 spiritual roots, and 15 people with 4 spiritual roots. As for the other comrade Yan Xiaoxin with 3 spiritual roots, because of a reason that the stupid author forgot in chapter 50, he was thrown in near the military base to lead the team to move bricks, and could only wait for the next round of awakening with regret. In addition, this time, going to Wei Mansion with this group of warriors, there is also a research team consisting of 7 people, dead, cough cough. The leader is academician Liu Xiangqian. After the group arrived at Wei Mansion, under the guidance of Wei Fan and Wei Niandong, they came to a secluded courtyard. The courtyard is located in the south of the mansion, surrounded by dense forests, and sometimes birds fly out and land. There is also a small artificial pond in front of the courtyard, with fish wagging their tails leisurely in it, and the whole courtyard looks quiet and elegant. As soon as everyone stepped into the courtyard, they felt an extremely refreshing breath coming. Wei Fan looked at the relaxed expressions on everyone's faces and said with a smile, "This is a small courtyard dedicated to the awakening of the spirit in the clan. There is a spirit gathering array inside. The effect of the array gathering and purifying spirits is better than that of the martial arts field. Usually this array is closed. This time, I learned that you were coming, so I asked the steward to open the array in advance. In this way, the effect of awakening the spirit will be much better for everyone." Lin Ziming heard this and showed a trace of emotion on his face. Patriarch Wei is thoughtful. "It's a small matter, a small matter." Wei Fan waved his hand cheerfully, and then took out a talisman from his waist. He made a spell, tore it open and threw it out. The talisman slowly flew into the air, and stopped more than 10 meters above the ground. After a moment, it suddenly dispersed into several streams of light. The streams of light flew towards the 4 corners of the courtyard, and in an instant formed a semicircular protective shield. Seeing this, Wei Fan nodded with a slight satisfaction. He explained to Lin Ziming and others, "This is a first-level talisman that prevents divine thoughts from spying, and it can also serve as a soundproofing effect. It was refined by the 3rd uncle in the clan, who is the only talisman master in our clan. Although the mansion is very safe, as the saying goes, it is better to be prepared." Then he took a small wooden box from Wei Niandong, which contained several small porcelain bottles. "These are all the Keeling Dan in our clan. There are a total of 10 bottles, with a total of 60 pills. But we have placed orders with several medium-sized chambers of commerce. A new batch of ammunition will be delivered in about a week." Lin Ziming walked forward, picked up a porcelain bottle carefully, shook it gently, and said in surprise, "The Keeling Dan seems to be very light." Wei Fan nodded and poured out more a brown pill from the bottle. "The outside of the Keeling Dan is a medicine coat, and the inside is filled with gases extracted from spiritual medicines, so the pill body is very light." "Is that so?" Lin Ziming agreed to put the porcelain bottle back, and at the same time, he looked at Liu Xiangqian very secretly. Both sides saw the other's thoughts. "We must find out the secret of the Keeling pill." This time, the Wei Mansion quickly provided 60 Keeling pills, and promised to provide no less than 100 pills within half a month. Objectively speaking, this efficiency is not very low. After all, the consumption of Keeling pills by ordinary families in the Great Mo realm is only between 5 and 10 pills per year. But for the rabbits, let alone 100 Keeling pills, even 100 million pills are too little. This is the foundation of the path of cultivation and can be called the key to life transition. If the rabbits want to develop in the Great Mo realm, mass production of Keeling pills is the first necessary step. According to the information provided by the Wei Mansion, The medicinal materials needed for Kailing pills are not very precious. But this kind of pill takes a long time to refine, and because there is no technical barrier, the price has not risen, and the cost performance is much lower than other pills that take the same amount of time. In addition, the market demand is so small, so the annual output has not been high. As for the rabbits, now that the research on the earth vein fire has made a breakthrough, the chances of further cracking the Kailing pill are not very high. But at least it is feasible. This is also the reason why Liu Xianqian came with the team this time. He needs to observe and analyze the process of Kailing. Just as Liu Xianqian and Lin Ziming exchanged glances, Wei Fan sensed the concentration of spiritual energy in the courtyard and said, "You too, the spiritual gathering effect of the spiritual gathering array has almost reached its limit. It will only fluctuate in a very small range. So are you ready to start awakening the spirit?" Lin Ziming's expression quickly returned to normal, and he smiled and said, "We are outsiders. As the saying goes, outsiders should not interfere in internal affairs. So I'll trouble Master Wei to direct all the procedures today." Wei Fan could tell that Lin Ziming was not being polite, so he did not refuse. "Okay, then please come up and get the pills, 2 each. There are many cushions in the courtyard, and everyone can choose one to sit on, and then listen to my arrangements." Lin Ziming turned around and said to Xiao Yi and others, "Everyone, line up to get the pills, and wait for the next instructions after taking your seats." Upon hearing this, the soldiers present quickly lined up in a column. One by one, they came forward to get the pills and took their seats. 15 minutes later, in the rabbit side, except for Liu Xianqian's research team, everyone including Lin Ziming has sat on the futon. Among the 22 people, Xiao Yi, a 3 spiritual root warrior named An, and another 4 spiritual root warrior named Zhang Xin were all affixed with some silver-white patches. These patches are mainly responsible for the observation and collection of data such as heart detection, electrocardiogram, and echo monitoring. In addition, the 3 of them also took the phycoerythrin diluent in advance. As we all know, phycoerythrin is a very famous fluorescent labeling reagent. Before Xiao Yi and the other 2 took the diluent, the Plant Life Laboratory had already conducted experiments on mice and several surviving 2-headed cattle. It was confirmed that the activation spectrum of phycoerythrin remained unchanged in the Great Mo realm, and it can be used as a fluorescent marker in the Great Mo realm. In the concept of many people, fluorescent protein is just a test reagent and cannot be used on the human body. This concept is actually wrong. The in vitro diagnostic industry has already been very mature in using fluorescent proteins for disease detection. For example, phycocyanin and phycoerythrin are generally used in immunofluorescence methods, and only some coupling is needed to be used in the production of in vitro diagnostic reagents. Clinical disease diagnosis is based on self-search of real-time fluorescence quantitative PCR. Liu Xianqian and others have already prepared enough tyrosine kinases, ready for enzyme coupling at any time. After everything is ready, Wei Fan closed his eyes and felt the fluctuation of the surrounding spiritual energy. When the surrounding spiritual energy reached the peak of the concentration of this band, Wei Fan opened his eyes suddenly. "Take the pill." Yesterday, the big black fish, the big drive and the small flat top were commissioned on the same day. Congratulations to the 59 modified family for adding 3 more members. Today is the first of 221, and I will update my health. Then Pai recommends a book by an old author, a masterpiece that has been refined. Chapter 54 Awakening the Spirit, Awakening the Spirit. Note, this chapter is still a little hardcore. As Wei Fan shouted, the 22 selected warriors on the scene did not hesitate. At the same time, they stuffed the Kailing pill into their mouths. Wei Fan kept talking, speaking quickly and clearly. "When you feel the pill enter your stomach and your chest is slightly warm, sit cross-legged with your back straight. Lift your left foot to the root of your right thigh, with the sole of your foot facing the sky. Then pull your right foot to the root of your left thigh, so that both soles of your feet are facing the sky. Then face your palms to the sky, naturally placed on your legs, so that the 4 hearts are facing the sky. Finally, straighten your waist and spine, regard the top of your head as the center of your head, and naturally face the sky." This is the 5 hearts facing the sky style. Seeing everyone doing it one by one, Wei Fan continued, "Concentrate your attention and meditate in your mind that there is a sky step 3 feet above your head. Gather the power of your whole body to the center of your head, and imagine that the power of your mind is about to break through the top, step up the steps, and connect with the world." Kailing. It refers to the process of awakening the spiritual roots, opening up the secrets of the human body, and breaking through the shackles of the human body. After the spiritual roots are awakened, one can begin to comprehend the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and continue to transform and sublimate. This process of transformation is not achieved overnight. Instead, it requires slow accumulation and solid progress step by step. So this kind of transformation is called practice. There is no risk in the process of awakening the spirit, but the nature of this link is very important. While Wei Fan was instructing everyone to awaken the spirit, Liu Xiangqian and others were also nervously observing an instrument. This instrument is the latest enzyme-coupled transduction pathway instrument developed by the Huaxia Academy of Life Sciences, that is, the GTP binding protein receptor sensor. It can use 100 nm quantum dot nanosphere biomarkers as the conduction intermediate of the epsilon chain, thereby drawing real-time in vitro diagnostic images. Some people may ask, so let me explain first. The GTP sensor is a Nature article published by Mr. Song Baolian. So far, it has only been tested in the human stomach, but it is completely feasible in theory. The impact is that Germany and Switzerland are conducting simultaneous research. Here I will directly assume that the technology is already available. Less than a minute after everyone swallowed a Keeling Dan, Liu Xiangqian's assistant Mabo discovered something unusual. Mr. Liu, the ligands in Comrade Caoyi's abdomen, especially the peptides, are constantly decreasing. A large number of transcription factors are forming complexes with heat shock proteins. Liu Xiangqian's brows immediately frowned. Forming complexes? What about steroid hormones, signal molecules that cannot bind to receptors? Mabo pointed to a band on the screen, shook his head, and said, the red light of other signal molecules has not decreased. Liu Xiangqian touched his chin, looking puzzled, and muttered to himself, this is strange, this is not well known. Generally speaking, only when non-ligand signal molecules are absent in the human body, transcription factors will form complexes with inhibitory protein molecules, such as heat shock proteins, in order to prevent the binding of receptors to DNA. This is a very common biological binding law. But the changes that have taken place in CAOU now undoubtedly violate the normal laws of life and medicine. Looking at the red light on the instrument that is not decayed, Liu Xiangqian gradually had a guess in his mind. He said to Mabo, that is to say, gene expression has been reversed, or regulated. So, is the effect of Killington to change nuclear receptor-mediated signal transduction? It only regulates but does not encode, which is similar to the cis-acting element of DNA. Fortunately, this is the scope of gene expression, and our technical reserves in this area are very mature. While Liu Xiangqian and others were discussing the effects of Killington, suddenly, a soldier in the field underwent a more significant change. An has an extremely rare surname of An. The surname An is a variant of the surname He, which originated from the Ming dynasty. According to the Shenyang He family tree, written in 1632, the origin of our clan is that during this Hangun period of the Tang dynasty, the western expedition to our country, when they arrived in the western regions, before they could fight, the two countries negotiated peace and exchanged 3,000 soldiers as hostages. My ancestor was originally a leader in the western regions. When he met the emperor, Ming Tezuzi Yuantang, he was granted the position of commander of the personal army. The ancestor's original name was Hazili, so he was given He as his surname. The surname An is one of the variants of the surname He. Currently, the only people in the country with the surname An are An and his family. Do you know how much time I spent to explain this extra surname? There is no way. He gave too much. An is 26 years old this year, a former member of the Magic City Special Warfare Brigade. He is also one of the first 50 warriors who arrived at the Great Mo realm with Lin Ziming in the previous spiritual root test, and was extremely lucky to detect the 3 spiritual root qualifications, and won the Luck King in the red envelope grabbing competition. As a result, he was successfully selected into the list of the first batch of warriors to awaken their spirits. At this moment, under the effect of the Keeling pill, Anhe's body values fluctuated rapidly. In another heart rate sensor, Anhe's heart rate and blood pressure instantly reached a peak threshold. Like a bow and arrow that has accumulated strength to the extreme, the bow is bent and the full moon is shot. Whoosh! A white gas rose from the dragon spine of Anhe, and a small vortex slowly formed above his head. After a while, the vortex disappeared. Seeing this, Wei Fan showed joy on his face and turned to Liu Xiangqian and said, "Congratulations, Mr. Liu. The appearance of a spiritual vortex above the head is a sign of successful spiritual awakening. It means that this brother has united his 5 hearts and officially connected with the heaven and earth. From now on, he can be regarded as a real practitioner. Liu Xiangqian was stunned when he heard this. He originally thought that something had happened to him, but then he was overjoyed. Great, this is the first local practitioner in China who has successfully awakened his spirit, except for Comrade Wei Siming and others. It is a good sign that he successfully awakened his spirit with a Keeling pill. Then he thought of something and asked Mabo quickly, Xiaoma, have you recorded the data changes on Comrade N just now? Mabo nodded quickly and clicked the screen a few times with a mouse. Old Liu, all have been entered. At the moment when Comrade N broke through, a large number of promoter sequences that control gene expression, that is, dark blue fluorescent protein markers, gathered in Comrade N's abdomen in a very short time. They seem to be combining with some substance in the Keeling pill. From the performance morphology, it is suspected that an unknown area has been formed, isolating all the fluorescent proteins outside. Liu Xiangqian leaned forward in front of the screen and carefully read the relevant data. Some substance combines with a promoter. In other words, the substance in the Keeling pill is similar to RNA polymerase, or one of the characteristics is similar to RNA polymerase. This is a very critical information and must be recorded. As for the unknown area, let's ignore it for now. Even such an important receptor as RTK is isolated outside. It is estimated that it will be difficult for us to understand it in a short time. This may involve things after cultivation. After all, this is a fairy world, and known science cannot explain everything. We only need to solve a small part of one or several links, and we can save a large amount of resources. Liu Xiangqian's voice had just fallen. The atmosphere in the direction where Xiao Yi was located suddenly changed again, and a vortex emerged. Then came another 4 spiritual root Zhang Xin, Lin Ziming, and Liu Ming. 10 minutes later, the first round of the awakening ceremony ended. 22 warriors, 14 successfully awakened their spirits, and 8 failed. 2 updates today, and another at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This chapter was written with the assistance of a friend of mine who has a doctorate in biology. I had a 2-hour voice call with him during the coding period. My friend's accent is not very standard, so a very interesting thing happened during the communication process. Me, how do you write this ingredient? Him, guanosine phosphate. Oh, guanosine acid, guanosine phosphate. Got it, guanosine phosphate. Beep beep beep. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Killingdon Mass Production Plan. After 4 rounds of attempts, all 22 soldiers finally succeeded in awakening their spirits. A total of 34 awakening pills were consumed. In the headquarters, Lin Li looked at the report brought back by Liu Xiangqian and asked, Mr. Liu, the failure rate of 4 spiritual roots is higher than that of 3 spiritual roots. Is this situation universal? The report brought back by Liu Xiangqian showed that the success rate of awakening 3 spiritual roots is about 14% higher than that of 4 spiritual roots. This time, the awakening is arranged in the order of success. Among the last 6 soldiers in the sequence, 5 of them are 4 spiritual roots. Don't think that the difference of 14% seems not much? Once this base number is expanded to tens of thousands or even higher, the difference will be a very terrifying number. Facing Lin Li's question, Liu Xiangqian took out another black and white document. The file was densely packed with a lot of names. This is a copy of the awakening record provided by the Wei Mansion. The time period is from 3 years after the city was built to the present. We have counted the above data and supplemented it with the awakening results of the warriors. It can be basically confirmed that this situation is universal, and there is no race in any world that is higher or lower. In other words, the fewer the number of spiritual roots, the higher the efficiency and success rate of awakening the spirit. Lin Li thought for a while and asked tentatively, does that also mean that if the number of pills is sufficient, people with 5 spiritual roots can actually awaken their spirits normally? Of course, if the cost is not considered. Liu Xiangqian nodded affirmatively, and then sighed. The reason why 5 spiritual roots are called useless spiritual roots in the Great Mo realm is that on the one hand, The speed and purity of the 5 spiritual roots in absorbing spiritual energy are indeed limited when practicing. On the other hand, it is because the success rate of awakening the spirit of 5 spiritual roots is very low, even less than 10%. The 60% probability of awakening the spirit pill, and the so-called jokes that the spirit is awakened successfully after 8 or 9 pills, actually do not include the data of 5 spiritual roots. In the traditional concept of the Great Mo realm, people with 5 spiritual roots are not considered as quasi-cultivators. People with 5 spiritual roots in big families, like the Wei mansion, can only linger in the early stages of key training throughout their lives. As for the 5 spiritual roots among the common people, the Great Mo realm can easily catch anyone. After all, there is no qualification lower than 5 spiritual roots. Lin Li touched his chin thoughtfully and said to himself, the 10% success rate, and the so-called low cost is for normal practitioners. The middle and upper classes don't care, and they can't afford 5 spiritual roots. No wonder the status of the Qiling pill in the Great Mo realm is so embarrassing, just as Lin Li said. In the eyes of family practitioners with 4 spiritual roots or above, Qiling pill can only be regarded as a one-time entry-level pill, and basically they don't need to care too much about this expense. After all, there is no barrier to refining Qiling pill. If this family doesn't sell it, that family will sell it. As long as you are not too shameless. 2 or 3 pills are enough to complete the Qiling ceremony. Even if a commoner has 4 spiritual roots, you can get them together if you grit your teeth. What really reflects the gap between the family and the common people is the resources needed for cultivation after the Qiling. But for the 5 spiritual roots, unless you are so lucky that you hit the target with one shot, with a probability of less than 10%, you basically cannot think of successfully awakening your spirit without 11 or 12 pills. If it were some unlucky people on Earth, they would probably lose everything and never be able to awaken their spirits in their next life. How many unlucky people would draw a little dear man out of 400 draws? This puts the awakening pill in a very awkward range. The price of a single pill is not expensive, but the number added up makes it unaffordable for ordinary people. The labor cost is too high to reduce the price, and there is no technical barrier and the price cannot be raised. After all, this thing cannot be mass-produced mechanically in the Great Mo realm. Thinking of this, Lin Li looked at Liu Xiangqian, Mr. Liu, do you think it is possible to completely crack the awakening pill? Liu Xiangqian hesitated for a while, as if he was organizing his words. Then he said slowly, it is definitely impossible to crack all of them. According to observation, there are 2 stages after the Qiling Dan enters the human body. The first is to promote a large number of transcription factors and heat shock proteins to form a complex, reversing gene expression. The second is that some substance in it combines with a promoter sequence to form an unknown, isolated mysterious area. Our existing technical reserves can easily complete the first stage, and the ideas of the first half of the second stage are almost clear. But the second half of the second stage involves some unknown mysterious factors of the Qiling Dan, and we are temporarily powerless. According to Patriarch Wei Fan, this mysterious area is the inner sea opened up by the spiritual roots of the practitioners. Lin Li's eyes lit up immediately, and his academician-level thinking ability was fully revealed at this moment. This inner sea is just the result of the Qiling. Even if it is completely unknown, it has little impact. We just need to ensure that the previous process can successfully create this inner sea. Is that what you mean? This time Liu Xiangqian did not hesitate, and gave an immediate answer, that's right. Just like the very famous transcription link in the dual luciferase experiment. The positive result was obtained by transferring the empty plasmid, while there was no difference when transferring the promoter alone without transferring the transcription factor. This is a phenomenon that cannot be explained by science at present. But if we do not analyze the essence of this phenomenon, we are fully capable of repeating this result countless times. Lin Li scratched his head excitedly, and accidentally pulled out several hairs, and his heart was suddenly knotted. But this is not the time to feel sorry for himself. He heard another possibility from Liu Xiangqian's words, improve or even replicate the effect of Qiling Dan through scientific and technological means, so as to reduce the cost of refining and achieve the purpose of mass production. There are generally 2 reasons why Damoji's elixirs cannot be mass-produced. One is that the spiritual plants and spiritual medicines required for alchemy are scarce, which limits the number of elixirs to be refined from the perspective of raw materials. The second is that the cost-effectiveness is very low. For example, labor costs, the number of earth vein flames required for refining, time consumption, etc., But for elixirs like Keeling Dan, there is no constraint of the first situation. Keeling Dan requires not many medicinal materials, and most of them have high yields. As long as you have money, it is no problem to collect a large amount of raw materials. As for the second point of cost effectiveness, don't forget it. The rabbits have just analyzed the essence of the earthvane flame. As long as the Y particles are infinitely multiplied, it is entirely possible to mass produce the earthvane flame. With a flame of about 3000 degrees, the rabbits can easily produce a lot of different flames. This is the charm of technology. Pulling out the hair of a group of people will benefit countless people. Therefore, the inherent mass production restrictions of the spiritual awakening pill are nothing to the rabbits. Perhaps because of some unknown substances contained in the spiritual plants and spiritual medicines, the rabbits cannot use other things to completely replace these medicinal materials. But since it has been determined that the essence of the spiritual awakening process is to just gene expression, some of the links are very likely to be streamlined and optimized. For example, the characteristics similar to RNA polymerase. If it can be replaced with real polymerase, is it possible to reduce some costs? These are all feasible, and none of them exceed the current technical limits. Just as Lin Li was holding the hair loss in his hand and thinking, Liu Xianqian's voice brought him back to reality. Captain Lin, I want to launch this project. Lin Li was stunned for a moment, then said, Old Liu, once the Keeling Dan project is launched, it will definitely be an independent single task. It is different from the new drug research project team of Shannon. At Shannon, you only need to coordinate the overall situation, and the frontline research and development tasks are not very heavy. But when it comes to the new project of Keeling Dan, there are too many unknowns, and some links may only be completed by you in person. But your body, Liu Xianqian clenched his left fist and gently hammered his chest twice. I'm in good health. Lin Li's brows did not relax because of this. He knew that the old man's body was not as good as he looked, but you just had a heart operation last year. Oh, I said it's okay. Liu Xianqian glared at Lin Li, waved his hand impatiently, and simply stopped calling Captain Lin. I said, Zio Lin, I didn't come to the Great Mo realm to enjoy myself. If I really had any serious problems with my body, the country would not send me here. Besides, it's like you said. There are some links that only I can complete. Damoji. Oh no, all of China, can you find someone who is more capable than me in the field of gene transcription? Besides me, who else can lead this team? Shumu Zio Pan or Nanki Zio Kiao? I'm not exaggerating, they are still a few years away from me. The earlier we can mass produce the Keeling pill, the earlier we can mass awaken the warriors. What does this mean? I don't need to teach you, right? Liu Xianqian sighed and stared at Lin Li's eyes. I am a little old man born in 1948, not an old zombie in 1848. I am in good spirits. I witnessed the advent of a new era when I was 1 year old. But at that time, I could only hold a bottle in my mouth and wave at the radio without knowing anything. Now our country has reached the threshold of another new era, and I still have some strength. Do you think I can miss this opportunity? Even if I don't want this old life, I have to give our country a push. If something really happens, I can reincarnate into China in my next life and continue to work, right? My soul is red, can I still vote for the eagle? Xiaolin, give the order, I know you have the authority. Lin Li stammered a few times, and finally sighed, since you said so, what else can I say? Just tell me how many manpower you need. First organize the manpower and then apply for the project. I will also ask the base camp to send you any equipment you need in advance. Mr. Liu, everything is in your hands. Then Lin Li paused, and thought of something. By the way, the name of the project on the project proposal should be written. Surin, the countdown to May 1st is on the shelves. After the listing, there should be basically no brainless nitpicking, so after the listing, I will post the paper in the author's words. The author's words is a free area and will not occupy the paid content. Everyone, please click on the characters. I also ask for recommendation votes. Chapter 56 Open the door to key training. Less than half a day after Lin Li and Liu Xianqian met, a project report and a list of personnel were sent to the headquarters. After Lin Li stamped the report, it was sent to the Magic City base camp through a specialist. 5 hours later, the Magic City side replied, approved to establish a special research team for the Surin Keeling pill. The team has 11 researchers, Liu Xianqian will be the team leader, and all the required equipment will be delivered within 2 days. The Siren Project team was officially established. At the same time, the 22 warriors who successfully awakened their spirits adjusted for half a day. Still led by Wei Fan, they came to the training room of the Wei Mansion martial arts field and began to try to practice. In the camp, there was only a 4-person medical team with a team this time, led by Bao Xin, the dean of the first hospital of the Magic City. The medical team's main task is to provide technical support and prevent some possible accidents, and is not responsible for observation and analysis-related research will be carried out at the life experiment base. As for Liu Xianqian and others, they have already put all their minds on the Siren project and did not participate in this mission. After entering the training room, Wei Fan handed a stack of A4 paper to Lin Ximing. Colonel Lin, this is a photocopy of the key gathering style technique translated by Professor Ma Ning and others. The key gathering style is an entry-level technique that is widely spread in the Great Mo world. It has simple formulas and is suitable for prospective practitioners to the 3rd level of key training. When the practitioner's realm reaches the 3rd level of key training, they can choose the main technique for the next stage according to their own spiritual roots. Lin Ximing took the A4 paper and blinked at Bao Xin with a strange look. Old Bao, why do I feel so inconsistent? Aren't all the techniques for cultivating immortals in the form of jade slips or thread-bound books? We are so good, more than 20 introductory techniques are all done with a stack of A4 paper. Bao Xin smiled and said, so this is called scientific cultivation of immortals. How can thread-bound books be as environmentally friendly and efficient as A4 paper? When some projects have breakthroughs in the future, the combination of technology and cultivation will definitely be closer. Maybe one day you can even see a tablet that has been refined into a magic weapon. Lin Ximing imagined a cultivator flying on a flat board, and he was immediately amused. Then he looked down and flipped through the exercises, and said to the others, everyone come up to get a copy of the materials, and then find a seat. This time, the process will still be directed by the head of the Wei family, just as Wei Fan said. The content of key gathering style is very simple. The whole text is only about 1,000 or 2,000 words in total. If it is put in a novel, readers will criticize it for being short and small. Key gathering style is an entry-level exercise. The so-called entry means laying the foundation. Therefore, the stages of key gathering style are very simple, absorbing spiritual energy into the body and circling around once, thus entering the first level of key training. After that, expand the 12 major meridians of the human body, and use the spiritual energy to refine the 206 bones in the body. This is the 2nd and 3rd levels of key training. Only after crossing these 2 thresholds can you proceed to the next stage of practice. However, this process is simple to say, but it still takes a lot of time to do. For example, expanding the meridians and refining the bones. Bones are the basic units that support the body, but for life, meridians and blood vessels are the source of maintaining human vitality. Therefore, when practicing the gathering key style, the priority of meridians should be placed before bones. Only when the meridians are expanded to withstand greater pressure can the human body temper the bones. Bones are like the main body of a building, and meridians are the foundation. Only when the foundation is rammed solidly enough can it be possible to carry higher floors. In addition, the gathering key style also records a more detailed Haotian circulation trajectory. After the meridians are expanded, only Haotian circulation is needed to temper the bones. As for how to absorb spiritual energy, the gathering key style has only 2 words, induction. Spiritual energy is like a stranger floating outside the human body. It is not so easy to invite a stranger who has never met to visit your home. But if this stranger becomes your friend, then it becomes very simple to invite friends to play at home. The process of gathering key style to receive spiritual energy is that mortals who have not yet practiced send signals to spiritual energy. Boss, are you friends? Some spiritual energy likes to make friends, and they immediately run over after hearing the call. More spiritual energy is very cold, and requires the cultivation talent of mortals. The higher the talent, the easier it is to attract those free and cold spiritual energy. These days, blind date partners will ask if you have a car or a house, not to mention spiritual energy, which can determine the upper limit of a person's cultivation. However, now that the rabbits have arrived in the Great Mo realm, who knows what kind of development or changes will happen in the future in terms of cultivation? After all, what the rabbits are best at is breaking those inherent hierarchical barriers. Of course, this is something that may happen in the future. Now the rabbits have just started to practice. Even if they want to do something, They are powerless, and they still have to follow the established trajectory for the time being. The sight returns to the practice room. Under the guidance of Wei Fan, 22 warriors received the key gathering style exercises, and chose their respective positions. After sitting down, they began to read the content of the exercises carefully. After the spiritual energy enters the body, it is first guided to the hand Tai and Lung meridian. The 3 yin meridians of the hand run from the chest to the hand, the 3 yang meridians of the hand run from the hand to the head, the 3 yang meridians of the foot run from the head to the foot, and the 3 yin meridians of the foot run from the foot to the abdomen. The 3 yin meridians of the hand run from the chest to the fingertips and meet the 3 yang meridians of the hand. The 3 yang meridians of the hand run from the fingertips to the head and face and meet the 3 yang meridians of the foot. The 3 yang meridians of the foot run from the head and face to the toes and meet the 3 yin meridians of the foot. The 3 yin meridians of the foot run from the toes to the abdomen and chest and meet the 3 yin meridians of the hand. This forms a circular path in which yin and yang are interconnected, like a ring with no end. Liu Ming, a warrior with 4 spiritual roots, looked at the exercises on paper and felt a little dizzy. He nudged his good brother Zhang Xin with his elbow. Axon, this is too complicated. Zhang Xin said indifferently, I think it's okay. The exercises are very clear. The so-called Zhodian is to guide the spiritual energy from the chest to the fingers, from the fingers to the head, from the head to the feet, and then back to the chest. This is a very standard closed loop. I suggest you adjust your breathing. You are too impulsive and may not have the patience to guide the spiritual energy. Although our local Taoism has nothing to do with the Great Mo realm, I think the Taoist philosophy is still very suitable for cultivating immortals. Only by being quiet and doing nothing can you follow the laws of nature. After Zhang Xin finished speaking, he lowered his head again and carefully studied the content of the exercises. Liu Ming shrugged, closed his eyes and took a breath, and also focused on the key gathering style. After half an hour, Wei Fan said, Okay, everyone, start preparing. Adjust your breathing, then close your eyes, use your mind to mobilize the inner sea in your abdomen, and enter the state of unity between heaven and man again. In this state, you should be able to feel many small shining spots around you, which are the spiritual energy in the air. After feeling the spiritual energy, everyone should concentrate their thoughts and try to absorb the spiritual energy. When the spiritual energy officially enters the body, you can follow the trajectory of the gathering key style. Xiao Yi's position was in the southeast corner of the practice room. After Wei Fan spoke, he adjusted his breathing. Then he slowly closed his eyes. As an ordinary person in the world of science and technology, it is impossible not to be excited when suddenly exposed to the concept of cultivating immortals. For some people with less mental conditions, they can excite the DNA in their bodies to the point of forming an Archimedean spiral image. However, Xiao Yi's character is pretty good. After all, he has been a grassroots police officer for many years and has experienced many strange things. Here is a documentary I strongly recommend, called The Story of the Police Station. You won't be disappointed after watching it. After closing his eyes, Xiao Yi soon felt the presence of several small glowing particles around him. There was even an imperceptible particle that just passed by the Beihu acupoint on the top of his head. At the same time, he could not help but feel a desire in his body. Absorb it. Absorb it. Although the particles eventually floated away, Xiao Yi was not annoyed but happy. This must be the spirit energy. He held his breath and concentrated again, trying to communicate with the spirit energy. Finally, a tiny spirit energy particle slowly flew towards him and finally merged into his body. As the saying goes, everything is difficult at the beginning. When the first spirit energy was successfully absorbed, more and more spirit energy began to flow into Xiao Yi's body. Finally, near the lungs, a warm airflow was formed. Xiao Yi carefully guided this airflow and began to move according to the trajectory described in the key gathering style. From the lungs to the hands, hands to the head, head to the feet, and finally back to the chest. After the airflow returned to the starting point after running a circle, it suddenly began to sink gradually. Finally, it completely merged into the inner sea. Xiao Yi's body shook, and a mysterious breath emanated. It entered the body, and practiced Qi at one level. The door to Qi practice was opened. I was so moved to see the support of all the big brothers. I will continue to write according to the original idea. When I was coding, I thought of a very important inspiration. Today I will sort out the plot and one update. Today is not 221, so this update will definitely be made up. Please don't give up reading. Thanks to the leader of the Big Brother Lael for the reward. The ode update has been recorded and will be repaid after it is put on the shelves. I recommend the book, the new work of the Big Brother Yu Shuangzin Tao, the one-stop service on the Sanjiang homepage. The strength is guaranteed. Chapter 57, Night Falls. Compared to the success of the spiritual awakening ceremony, the stage of spiritual energy perception reflects the difference in qualifications. Among the 22 official quasi-practitioners, except Xiao Yi, only 8 people succeeded in drawing qi into their bodies. Among these 8 people, 2 others had disordered breath when they were running the Zhou-Yan, and unfortunately failed at the last minute. In the end, only 7 of the 22 quasi-practitioners successfully entered the first level of qi training. Among them, 1 person had dual spiritual roots, 3 people had triple spiritual roots, and 3 people had quadruple spiritual roots. However, compared to the need to take items such as the spiritual awakening pill to awaken the spirit, the process of drawing qi does not require additional resources. The remaining 15 failed warriors only need to try a few more times, and it is not a big problem to step into the first level of qi training. After all, this is only the most basic link in the long process of cultivation. In addition, Baozin also collected 2 boxes of indoor air before and after the people drew qi, and prepared to take it back to the base for further research. Less than 10 hours after the people finished drawing qi, the first round of darkness encountered by the local people in the Great Mo realm finally officially arrived. The interval between day and night in the Damo world is 7 Earth days, which is 168 hours per cycle. But this does not mean that the people in the Damo world sleep once every 7 days, nor does it mean that they eat once every 7 days. Just like the residents and scientific expedition team members in the polar day area on Earth. For them, a day is a whole half year. Do they sleep once every half year and wake up for half a year? People are not mobile phones. It is true that the human body's biological clock is affected by the time scale, but this is just an external reflection. What really causes the human body to feel sleepy is a molecular substrate formed by protein phosphorylation. Paper publication number, Nature 558, 435-439, 2018. This molecular substrate will disappear when you want to sleep, and when you wake up, the molecular substrate will begin to accumulate, just like the vitality value in many games. In 2014, Professor Stephen Hiller of the University of Southern California conducted an enzyme activation experiment on residents in the polar day area. It was found that a molecular substrate in the body of residents who have lived in the polar day area for a long time is also activated once every 12 hours. This molecular substrate is an unsolved mystery that even Watson, the father of DNA, called the code of life. Therefore, the so-called Earth cycle caused the current biological clock is actually inaccurate. A long time ago, the Earth's rotation period was only 22 hours. At present, the scientific community has 2 speculations about this molecular substrate. One is that the inherent biological clock gradually developed after the evolution of the Earthlings is an adaptation to the self-revolution cycle. The second is that it is a law born from a certain universe, which is applicable to any rotation cycle. After all, if you really want to say it, the general time for the sleepy molecular substrate to dissipate is only 8 hours, that is, the time for sleeping, and the time for gathering is a full 16 hours. This is actually quite different from the standard concept of the rotation cycle of 6 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the evening. You can think about the people around you. There are really not many people who go to bed at 6 o'clock. Today, the day and night exchange cycle of the Great Mo world is 168 hours, but the people living in it still follow the biological cycle of 8-16, which can be regarded as indirectly confirming the accuracy of the second speculation. Note, this is my personal opinion. In reality, the 2 speculations are basically 50-50, and both are supported by a large number of top scientists, and the latter is even more, including Kelly Mullis, who died in 2019. I personally yearn for the universe and the stars, so I think and adopt the second one. Now the night has fallen. Every household in Chickson City has lit a short candle or oil lamp, and a kind of lighting fixture similar to a street lamp has been lit in the city. The wick of this lamp is extracted from a certain substance in the body of a monster. The irradiation range is limited. It is a common lighting fixture in the Great Mo realm. In a sense, this wick is somewhat similar to the Kyling pill. If it is sold separately, the price is not high, and ordinary people can afford it, but once the number increases, it becomes a considerable expense. Especially for the Wei family. as the vassal family of Chickson City. In addition to providing security for civilians in the city, the Wei family also needs to bear the expenses of some civilian equipment. On the one hand, this expenditure comes from Wei Siming's ancestral precepts, which is the same as the work relief. On the other hand, it is to ensure that the trade and commercial activities of the entire city can proceed normally. Avoid becoming a dead city during the night. The area of Qi County is as large as 16 square kilometers. Even if half of the area is illuminated, the cost is not a small amount. But if you don't invest in this aspect, the economic system of the entire city will inevitably collapse. Half of the year is dark? Who would go out on the street without light? So in the past few years, the Wei mansion was actually half gritting its teeth and persisting. But now with the arrival of the rabbits, everything has begun to change. In the Wei mansion, Wei Zixi looked at the engineers busy in the yard with curiosity, and poked Wei Niandong with her index finger. Xiaodong, do you think these things called mercury lamps are really that magical? I heard that they are not only bright, but also very cost-effective. Wei Niandong glanced at his own sister, exhaled a sigh of disappointment, and said helplessly, Sister, didn't you break the flashlight left by Patriarch Siming? Things in the hometown are like this. They can be used without consuming spiritual energy, but other energies. For example, wind, water, fire, chakra and so on. This is all written in the memoirs of Patriarch Siming. You can go and read more when you have time. Wei Zixi stuck out her tongue at him and said briefly, Okay, I know you read a lot of books and many kinds, such as the book 2 or 3 things about Elder Peng and my master's wife under your bed. Wei Niandong's face suddenly turned red, and he glanced around quickly. Seeing that no one noticed, he lowered his voice and said, Why are you talking about this book again? Didn't we agree on this last time? Oh, then I'll just say someone's pen name. Lao Yinzuo Zioji, stop it. Wei Niandong stamped his feet, knowing that he couldn't escape this time. He tilted his head as if he was going to the execution ground, and showed his neck as if he had accepted his fate. Tell me, what do you want me to do now? Wei Zixi showed 2 small tiger teeth at the corners of her mouth, and a trace of joy flashed in her eyes. She pointed to a place not far away with a sly look. Xiaodong, can you introduce me to the person who is chatting with the head of the family? It's the one that Uncle Chuo is translating for. I've been paying attention to him for a long time. Wei Niandong turned his head stiffly and stared at Wei Zixi. As if he saw that the son-in-law had updated twice today, his eyes showed fear, astonishment, and disbelief. His own sister, who has high standards, seemed to be able to, perhaps, probably, no, was she moved? Then Wei Niandong looked over, thinking to see which elder brother had such great charm. After seeing the person clearly, I was stunned again. Oh my god, Colonel Lin, today there are 2 updates. The second one will be at 2 p.m. Today is the end of the month. Please vote more for the monthly ticket, otherwise it will expire. This chapter is a setting. I have been thinking about it for a long time, and originally planned to release it after 300 chapters. Let me talk about the reader group. 1,014,590,779. Chapter 58, The Transformation of the Other World begins with electricity. Master Wei, the lines in your house should be laid out soon. Lin Ziming was talking to Wei Fan in the courtyard. More than half a day ago, Lin Ziming's first key-inducing practice ended in failure. When he left the practice room with the team, he happened to meet the engineering company that came to Wei's house to lay the lines. Considering that Lin Ziming and Wei Fan were relatively familiar with each other, they might provide some convenience in this process. So after getting permission from the headquarters, Lin Ziming stayed directly in Wei's house and was responsible for some process handovers. The purpose of the engineering company coming to Wei's house this time was to lay power lines and provide a series of large and small lamps. By the way, the above is free of charge, including generators and the first batch of diesel. However, after the power is turned on in Wei's house and the lighting effect of local lamps is experienced, the rabbits will start the next project, lighting power supply for the whole city. Of course, at that time, various materials will not be free, and the electricity fee after the installation will also be charged. After all, the 2 sides are exchanging materials, not giving them away for free. Just when Lin Ziming was about to exchange a few more pleasantries with Wei Fan, a serviceman suddenly ran over. Colonel Lin, the wires have been laid. Note, is it reasonable to lay the wires in a courtyard of 60,000 square meters in a few hours? It is about the residential area of 200 x 300 meters. I really don't know if there is any big guy who can answer this question. Okay, thank you for your hard work. Lin Ziming politely thanked the serviceman, and then made a gesture of invitation. Patriarch Wei, let's go and have a look. Wei Fan also returned the invitation and smiled. Okay, let's go together. To be honest, I am also a little curious about the technology of my hometown. After all, I have only read about it in books. Then everyone walked forward a few steps and entered a guest room. Wei Zixi pulled Wei Niandong to the door to watch. In the guest room. At this time, all the candles in the room had been extinguished, and it was pitch black. Lin Ziming stood by the wall, turning on the flashlight on his phone in his right hand, and put his left hand on the switch at the door. This white button is the light switch. Just press it. Click. A crisp sound rang out, and the whole house was instantly as bright as day. Then Lin Ziming pressed it again. The house became dark again. After the demonstration, Lin Ziming turned on the light again and walked back to Wei Fan. How about it, Patriarch Wei? It's very simple, right? Wei Fan looked at the light bulb shining above his head with emotion, and exclaimed, it's really convenient, and the key is that the lighting effect is also very good. Lin Ziming laughed. This can be regarded as the advantage of technology. Now most of the rooms in the mansion have turned on the switch, and each courtyard has also set up a street lamp. The 3 diesel generators responsible for providing energy have been placed in a secluded area. The lighting line of the entire Wei mansion has been almost completed. As Lin Ziming said, the line of the Wei mansion is considered to be fully constructed. But for the rabbits, this is just the first step in launching a technological innovation in the field of people's livelihood in the Great Mo realm. Now that we have electricity, what else can be far behind? Do we need running water? Consider base stations? Do you want some discounts on mobile phones? A TV series with a pay of 160 million yuan? Forget about that. Of course, the above are all long-term plans that take some time. At this time, Wei Fan naturally didn't know the rabbit's layout. The issues he considered were more practical. Colonel Lin, I wonder what the cost of this electricity is. Lin Ziming was just about to ask, didn't we agree that we will provide the generators and diesel? But when the words came to his lips, he suddenly realized Wei Fan was asking about the expenditure after the power supply to the whole city. As one of the main leaders of the Xinhao camp, Lin Ziming naturally knew the electricity quotation that the rabbits were going to provide. He thought for a while and replied, the government is now using diesel power generation. Under normal circumstances, the conversion efficiency of diesel generator sets is about 31%. 1 liter of diesel can generate about 3 kilowatt-hours of electricity. 1 kilowatt-hour of electricity is probably enough for a lamp to be used continuously for 12 hours. Wei Fan looked thoughtful and recalled the material quotes provided by the rabbits before. If I remember correctly, 1 liter of diesel provided by your side is 7.5 Chinese yuan. Lin Ziming smiled and said, the cost of diesel power generation is relatively high. Sometimes it is possible that 1 kilowatt-hour of electricity will exceed 3 yuan. However, in the future, our entire city will use power plants to supply electricity, and 1 kilowatt-hour of electricity will only cost 5 to 7 cents. Based on the scale of Qi County has more than 10,000 people, right? The electricity consumption is basically used for public lighting. There are no large-scale lighting facilities and no household appliance expenses. If the residents in the city want to move in, the expenses do not need to be borne by the Wei government. Well, even if the lighting is turned on continuously during the night, the total consumption for 168 hours is only about 30,000 kilowatt-hours, or even less, 30,000 kilowatt-hours. Wei Fan counted on his fingers. If we calculate it at 50 cents or 70 cents, 30,000 kilowatts-hour of electricity is only about 20,000 Chinese yuan, right? 1 spirit stone is more than 6,000 Chinese yuan. 20,000 is about 3 spirit stones. 3 spirit stones. Hearing this number, Wei Lianzhang, who had been following by the side without saying a word, suddenly opened his mouth wide. He was the one who recruited Julian into the mansion. As the housekeeper of the mansion, Wei Lianzhang needed to count the expenses of various aspects of the mansion. He knew very well what this number represented. Before the rabbits appeared, the lighting expenses of each Damo Riwei mansion were more than 50 spirit stones. 3 to 50. This calculation. Even Wei Fan's breathing became a little faster, but as the head of the family, he managed to restrain his excitement. If the power can be stable, It will really help us a lot. Technology is really amazing. I really want to go back to the hometown of my ancestors to see what is different from the Great Mo realm. Lin Ziming wanted to pat this man on the shoulder and tell him that your ancestors' parents are still alive. But thinking that such nonsense does not fit his personality, he finally changed his words too. When the opportunity is right in the future, the organization will definitely consider this matter. But Chief Wei, if you want to return to China, the most important thing is to pass the language barrier first. Upon hearing this, Wei Fan hurriedly replied, "That's for sure. Recently, I have been learning Chinese with Yao Qiu and Niandong, and the hometown also provides a lot of language teaching materials. To be honest, I am a practitioner of the 9th level of key training, and I can learn languages very quickly." Speaking of language, Wei Fan suddenly thought of something. He turned his head and scanned the crowd of onlookers around him, and soon locked onto Wei Niandong, who was standing at the door. He waved to Wei Niandong, "Niandong, come here." After Wei Niandong came up, Wei Fan patted his shoulder and said to Lin Ziming, "Colonel Lin, you haven't visited our Wei mansion yet, right? Why don't you let Niandong take you around? Our Wei mansion is quite large. Anyway, now that we have street lights, we can see the surroundings clearly in the dark. After we finish our tour, it will be almost time for dinner, so you can stay for a meal." Then he said to Wei Niandong, "Niandong, do you have time?" Wei Niandong suddenly felt an extremely dangerous gaze locked on him, and his strong desire to survive made him nod quickly. "No problem, I have time." Seeing Wei Fan's enthusiastic attitude, and also thinking that this was an opportunity to get closer to the Wei mansion, Lin Ziming readily agreed. "Then I'll trouble you, brother Niandong." After that, Lin Ziming exchanged some pleasantries with Wei Fan and followed Wei Niandong out of the guest room. As soon as he stepped out of the door, he saw a quiet girl with a graceful face waving at him. "Nihao, Principal Ning Sang, cousin Nian Dongxi." Lin Ziming blinked in confusion. Where did this girl from Guangxi come from? 5 to 7 chapters will be published on May 1st, depending on my manuscript collection speed. The performance of this book is somewhat beyond my expectations. Thank you all for your support. I will try to update more chapters after the book is published. The specific details of the update and extra chapters will be written in the comments on Friday. Chapter 59 Cultural Export Plan. Just as Lin Ziming was strolling leisurely around the Wei mansion, a group of special personnel arrived at the Damo realm. These personnel were dressed differently, both men and women, and the only characteristic was that they were generally older, except for a few young people. They all looked over 30 years old. After passing through the light gate, they were quickly brought to Shi Zehong, who was in charge of the general affairs handover. Shi Zehong had read their files before the arrival of this group of personnel, so his eyes quickly locked on a middle-aged man among them. He walked up to the man and held out his hand. "Hello, I am Shi Zehong, the deputy director of the temporary station in Qi County City. This must be President Hong, right?" The middle-aged man called President Hong shook Shi Zehong's hand enthusiastically, shaking it up and down. "Hello, Director Shi, I have heard of you for a long time." "Yes, I am Hong Zhetao from the drama club." Shi Zehong let go of his hand and made a gesture of invitation to everyone. "Please take a seat first." After everyone was seated, Shi Zehong said to Hong Zhetao, "President Hong, you should all understand the mission of this trip, right?" Hong Zhetao nodded repeatedly. "Everyone has learned the details of the mission before coming here, and has signed a volunteer letter. You can rest assured about this, Director Shi." Shi Zehong nodded. "That's good." Not long ago, after the formal mission of the second phase was set, the base camp formulated an advanced cultural output plan in response to the relatively poor phenomenon in the cultural field of the Great Mo realm. The reason why the cultural field of the Great Mo realm is relatively sluggish is ultimately related to basic productivity. The lower-class people are hungry and cold, worrying about their livelihood every day, and worrying about the beast tide every once in a while. How can the cultural level develop under such circumstances? In a medium-sized city, it is considered good to have 1 or 2 taverns that tell stories. At most, there is a place for singing and playing music, singing some songs and talking about the friendship between Guan Yu and Bao Bao. And according to the information provided by the Wei Mansion, these so-called storytellers usually tell only those old stories. What about a young man who strayed into a cliff and picked up a secret book handed down from generation to generation? A young man who was slaughtered for 20 years and the Dragon King returned? Or the love-hate entanglement between a handsome swordsman and a fairy? At most, In order to cater to some female monks with special tastes, the swordsman and the fairy were changed into a swordsmanship competition between swordsmen. In short, it is the kind of work that cannot even be signed on the Kitty and Novel website. And it is this very barren cultural soil that provides a very good opportunity to break in. So after some discussion among the core layer, a plan for teaching literature and music was born. This plan includes multiple projects, covering drama, novels and even film and television. The main purpose is to enrich folk entertainment and relieve pressure from another perspective. Of course. As the saying goes, you can't eat everything in one breath. Considering the current situation, the first phase of this cultural export plan has only one goal: Chichen City. The reason why the drama club where Hongxiangtao is located was chosen has to do with a reform a few years ago. In that round of reform, there was a group of very outstanding literary and artistic backbones who were absorbed into drama clubs in various places after the establishment was cancelled. The drama club where Hongxiangtao is located is one of the beneficiaries. In the past 2 years, the drama club has absorbed a large number of Dongxian literary and artistic backbones, and some of them are even absolute big names at the core level of drama. Friends who have learned about drama should know it. Drama is a thing that relies on acting skills. Those who can stand on the stage for 20 to 30 years are all old actors. Those well-known dramas were almost full at the time, which is far from comparable to those bad dramas that are full of fighting spirit. This is exactly why the drama club was chosen. First, there are many backbones, good acting skills, and long experience. Second, because these actors are from professional schools, many of them are military dependents of the Eastern War. Some of their wives or husbands are even one of the first operators to arrive in the Great Mo realm, and they have a high level of confidentiality and awareness. Considering that the cultural export plan is one of the main projects of the core layer, the camp arranged for Shi Zhehan to come and take over, which can be regarded as a high-level reception. After briefly getting to know several key members, Shi Zhehan continued, "This time, the headquarters has arranged several plays for everyone. They are folk-life plays such as the story of the kitchen team in Longhuan. With the assistance of many industry insiders, the plots of these 3 plays have been greatly modified to make them more suitable for the inherent concepts of the Dhammo world and will not be overexerted. In addition, everyone needs to learn the lines of these plays as soon as possible, I mean the ones expressed in Dhammo language. This is a very arduous task, and I hope everyone will take more care of it." After saying this, Shi Zhehan took out a few letters from the bag beside him. This is a letter of introduction from the language project team. Since the language compilation has reached a very critical juncture, a unified system of opening letters of introduction has been implemented. Don't damage the mark on the letter. The language project team uses the mark to judge the authenticity of the letter. As for where everyone is staying, someone will take you there later. Hongxiangtao took the envelope carefully and assured on behalf of everyone, "Director Shi, we have made sufficient psychological preparations before coming here, so please rest assured, the organization." Shi Zhehan nodded slightly, "Then I'll leave it to you." After seeing off the people in the drama club, Shi Zhehan found Lin Li. "Captain Lin, the drama club has already made arrangements for the handover." Lin Li put down a document in his hand, stood up, poured him a glass of water, and said, "Director Shi, thank you for your hard work. The task of the drama club this time is very arduous, and I will have to trouble you to take more care and follow up. If everything goes well, the base camp may arrange for several novelists to come to the Dhammo realm." Upon hearing this, Shi Zhehan put down the quilt and asked curiously, "Arranging novelists to the Dhammo realm? Is this also part of the Wenel plan?" "That's not right. If it's just for Wenel, wouldn't it be better to let them create locally? If it's confidential, just pretend I didn't ask." Lin Li waved his hand indifferently and said, "This is not a classified matter. You are fully qualified for it at your level." The comrades in the Human Resources and Social Security group found a record in a letter left by Comrade Wei Siming. There seems to be a rule called literary luck in the Dhammo world. Some poets or writers whose works are widely circulated will sometimes be favored by literary luck and improve their spiritual roots, or even directly deepen their cultivation. This kind of literary luck is only for the original author, and republishing it will not have any effect. So there is an idea in the base camp to try to select a group of trustworthy writers to come to the Dhammo world. They create, and we are responsible for promotion to see if the miraculous effect of literary luck can appear. After all, there are so many writers who write novels, and it is not difficult to find a group of writers who have passed the ideological and political tests. If it doesn't work, pay more money and let them come to the Dama world for training purposes to create in isolation. Last time, I heard Xiao Wang say that an author called Newbie Fisherman she was chasing after only made a few hundred yuan a month for writing novels, and he was so poor that he could hardly afford to eat. If he was given a price of 100 yuan per 1,000 words, he would probably come here happily. Of course, this is a plan that has not even been completed. Everything depends on the achievements of the drama club. The headquarters has high hopes for them. This can be seen from the code name of this plan. After all, it is called Kangji. Chapter 60, Remarks on the release of the book. When you see this sheet, it means that it is less than 24 hours away from the book being put on the shelves. That's right. This evening, after 12 o'clock, between 1:15, the book will be officially put on the shelves. To be honest, I was a little nervous when I wrote this sheet. After all, it is the first book of a new author. At present, the performance of this book seems to be good, but what you may not know is that the creation process of this book is actually very bumpy. Because this book almost failed to sign a contract. I don't mean to lie to you, I was only half an hour away from giving up on this book. Because this book I chose to submit it to the editor's mailbox. At that time, I wrote the main text of more than 10,000 words and sent it to the editor's mailbox I wanted to submit it to. 2 days later, I received a reply, "I'm sorry, this work does not meet the contract standard." In fact, I didn't feel anything at the beginning, because each editor has different tastes. If this editor doesn't like it, then change to another one. But gradually I found that something was wrong. I submitted it to 11 editors, and none of them passed, all rejected. 11 editors. You should know that there are only 20 editors on Kidian. The most outrageous reply was, "I suggest you learn more from the new writers and new works on the list, and consider genres such as signing and global." I don't know how you feel as a spectator, but I was quite excited at the time. I thought that group portraits might not have a market, but I didn't expect that I couldn't even pass the initial review. But less than 2 hours after I submitted the article to the 12th editor with frustration, an email came, "Very good, I like this kind of story very much. If you publish a book with 6,000 words, add me to the review." The editor's name is Lu Ming, who is known as the fastest man on Kidian. To put it bluntly, at that moment I seemed to see the light. It was because of that email that this story survived. And I had the opportunity to meet you. This book started from a trial push, and struggled all the way to Fenqiang, Fenfeng, and Sanjiang, basically going through all the recommendations that a new book can be recommended. I asked someone to verify it. Our book should be the third group portrait novel that goes to Sanjiang, in addition to Chu Bada's Crossing the New World and Lingao. It's not easy, of course. Also because it is a group portrait novel, the performance of this book is not particularly good. I don't know if the first order is 2,000. But at least I think I am worthy of myself and the editor. So if you are interested in writing a book, I suggest you vote for Lu Mingda. Okay, after nagging about these, let's talk about first in extra chapters. The rules for extra chapters are as follows. The first order is 1,800 is the line. For every 100 orders above, one chapter will be added. After the first order period, for every 200 orders, one chapter will be added. For every 500 monthly tickets, one chapter will be added. As for rewards, it is like this. The leader will add 3 chapters, additional chapters within a week. For the rest of the rewards that accumulate to 1,000 yuan, 3 chapters will be added the next month. At the end of each month, I will announce the reward amount in the group and then talk about first updates. Each chapter after the release is 2,000 words, which is for the convenience of readers who watch the video to subscribe. 6 chapters will be updated at once tonight. Then 2 chapters will be updated every day until the middle of the month. I have to explain here, my fingers have very serious tenosynovitis, and my typing speed is about 600 words per hour. I am not saying this to gain sympathy, but to tell you that I have an appointment for minimally invasive surgery on the 12th, and it should take about 3 or 4 days to recover. After the surgery, the typing speed should be increased. So the update volume will increase from the middle of the month, and the specific increase will depend on the performance of the book. I have added 4 chapters during the new book period of this book. 30 in this chapter, 260 monthly tickets, 820 monthly tickets, and the week of guessing the time traveler. All 5 chapters were added on time, so my credibility should still be there. That's about it. At 0:15 tonight, please come to Kidian Chinese website to support the first order. By the way, today is the last day of April. If you have monthly tickets, please give some. I am just over 100 away from 2,000 monthly tickets. If I reach 2,000, I can participate in the lucky draw. Chapter 61 The Prototype of Psychic Shield. 2 days after the troop arrived at Damoji, at the Zinhero Squad headquarters, Lin Li sat face to face with Yu Jinian, the chief infrastructure engineer. Lin Li first poured a glass of water for Yu Jinian, then asked, Chief Engineer Yi, how is the progress at the construction site? Yu Jinian took out a construction drawing and spread it out. It was divided into 2 areas, blue and white, bicolor. He gestured with his hands and said, Captain Lin, this is our construction progress map. Blue represents the completed foundation, and white represents the area that has not yet started. Judging from our current progress, the foundation will be completed in 4 days. Lin Li took a closer look at the construction drawing and found that 1/3 of the area had been painted blue, so he continued to ask, what about the refugees? Yu Jinian showed a smile on his face. It seemed that the problem of refugees was solved smoothly. More than 400 refugees have gradually adapted to the life on the construction site. Some of them have even made friends with our engineers. According to the construction schedule, they will stop work and take a 2-day vacation in 3 days, and return to Qi County City. By then, our public opinion and reputation may usher in an explosive period. Although the 2-day suspension period may be a bit long, it is the necessary time for public opinion to ferment. Compared to the number of new migrant workers after the fermentation of public opinion, we can still afford this time. Very good, just go ahead and do it. Lin Li had no objection to this. Both the camp and the base camp could afford this time. Then he thought of something and said to Yu Jinian solemnly, Engineer Yi, the day when the refugees return to Chixin City is also the payday, right? This is the first time we pay salaries, and the whole process must be arranged properly. Please pay more attention to this matter and go and hand it over to Zioshi. By the way, there is one more thing. Tomorrow, the base camp will send several political cadres to prepare a certain degree of ideological enlightenment education for these refugees. Engineer Yi, please discuss with several other site leaders later and compile a list of refugees recommended for priority contact from me. Yu Jinian was also a person in the system. He understood the importance of this task as soon as he heard it, and his face suddenly became serious. Okay, I'll do it right away. After Yu Jinian left, Zhang Guanghua, the guard and assistant assigned to him by the base camp, sat outside the tent. Captain Lin, academician Hua from the military industry group has important matters to report. It really doesn't stop. Lin Li relaxed his tired eyes a little, took a sip of water, and said, please let him in. After a moment, an old man of the same age as Lin Li walked in from outside the tent. His name was Hu Jun, and he was a well-known weapons research and development expert in China. He was born in the 40X factory and currently worked in a classified military research institute, focusing on composite armor technology. After the second phase of the project was officially launched, Hu Jun and his team were secretly sent to the Damo realm, and are currently assigned a medium-sized laboratory. Lin Li had dealt with Hu Jun many times before, and knew that he was a serious man who had a stern face all day long, looking like he had advanced liver cancer. However, at this moment, Hu Jun changed his usual Sun Ziachun face and shouted to Lin Li excitedly, Old Lin, we have made progress in the research of talismans. Lin Li was stunned for a few seconds, and then he was also overjoyed. Really? Hu Jun nodded and put a round jade plate with a diameter of about 5 centimeters on the table. The jade plate was engraved with a series of complex patterns. He pointed to the jade tablet and said, the Wei Mansion had previously arranged for a first-level talisman master to come and assist us in our research. He personally sketched out 6 common first-level talismans in the laboratory. They are the first-level detonation talisman, the first-level blazing fire talisman, the first-level rain talisman, the first-level wind summoning talisman, the first-level body protection talisman, and the first-level speeding talisman. According to this talisman master named Wei Yuan, refining talismans requires a talisman pen made from the hair of a monster, plus a series of materials such as refined talisman paper or jade tablets, cinnabar, etc., and spiritual power is required to assist in the refining of talismans. In addition, the talisman master must be calm when drawing talismans, and his hands must not shake or be crooked at all. Generally speaking, the success rate of refining first-level talismans is 1 in 20, and the higher the grade of the talisman, the lower the success rate. At that time, After Wei Yuan finished drawing 6 talismans in 4 hours, he also told us in a serious tone. Drawing talismans is a profound art, and many people spend half their lives to learn it. For someone like him who only took 10 years to become a first-level talisman master, he is already an extremely rare genius. We locals should be prepared to spend 20 or 30 years to learn it. As Lin Li listened, a strange look gradually appeared on his face. It is true that people cannot guarantee that they can draw talismans correctly every time, but rabbits have technology. He seemed to have guessed a certain ending. Sure enough, Hua Jun laughed. After he finished speaking, we immediately transferred his successful drawing record to the micro-supercomputer. On the micro-displacement workbench, we used a laser burner to control the talisman pen and copied more than 100 talisman templates. At this moment, the little brother is still doubting his life in the corner. You, please be polite to others. Lin Li smiled and pointed at Hua Jun with his finger, but he could guess that the talisman master named Wei Yuan should have said something unpleasant. This made Hua Jun and the others couldn't help but show off their skills. Then he turned serious and asked Hua Jun, "Mr. Hua, tell me about your achievements." Seeing that Lin Li mentioned business, Hua Jun stopped joking. He held up the round jade tablet on the table. We copied all 6 talismans, but the final result was only similar in appearance but not in spirit. These talismans cannot be used. According to Wei, the process of drawing talismans requires the assistance of the talisman master's spiritual energy, so that the talismans refined will be truly effective. Unfortunately, we really can't do this at present. Then Hua Jun paused and continued, just when we thought that the imitation had failed, one of my students suddenly thought of a question, that is, must the spiritual energy act on the talisman paper at the same time as the talisman pen? Is it useful to draw the talisman first and then introduce the spiritual energy? After all, when the talisman master draws the talisman, he will not deliberately pass the spiritual energy to the talisman pen. This kind of talisman pen made of monster material plays a connecting role, and the spiritual energy running in the body will naturally flow along this tube to the talisman. So we followed the idea of my student and asked Wei Yuan to introduce some spiritual energy into the 6 talismans. After Hua Jun finished speaking, he stood up with some excitement. Perhaps there were some errors in the process, and 5 talismans still cannot be activated, but the first level body talisman succeeded. After the spiritual energy was introduced, this first level body talisman can be used normally. Then we tried more than 20 times, and not once failed. Hua Jun tightly grasped the round jade plate and exclaimed, "This first level body talisman will form a light shield around it after activation, which can last for 60 minutes. This light shield can probably withstand a full strength attack from the 6th level of key training, which is the impact of 3 7.62 mm bullets. You know, this is an all-round automatic protection talisman that can even protect the head and pie. In addition, we also added a fuse that stores a trace amount of spiritual energy. As long as this fuse is pulled, even ordinary people can activate this talisman." Lin Li's pupils shrank immediately. Although his specialty is biology, after becoming the head of the camp, his knowledge in various aspects has been supplemented to some extent. At present, the best bulletproof vest on Earth is the Dragon Scale Armor series, produced by Eagle Peak Armor Company, which can withstand the impact of 47.62 mm bullets from 6 meters away. Although the defensive effect of the first level body amulet is far inferior to that of the Dragon Scale Armor, don't forget, this is a full body defense shield. This alone can increase the value of the first level body amulet by dozens of times. Not to mention that there are at least 3 more advanced talismans above the first level body amulet. Of course, compared with the first level talisman, the high level talisman is not only more difficult to draw, but also requires extremely valuable materials. For example, it requires a talisman pen made by a high-level demon, and for example, it requires a high-level monk to introduce spiritual energy, as well as better talisman paper or jade cards, etc. But in any case, this is a road with a visible prospect. Taking a step back, even if the rabbits only focus on producing the first level body amulet, they can still greatly improve the current strength of the troops. Thinking of this, Lin Li couldn't sit still. He stood up from his chair suddenly and asked solemnly, "Academician Hua, can this kind of body talisman be mass-produced?" Hua Jun thought for a while. The cost of our light carving is easy to say, but the materials such as talisman paper or jade plaques, as well as the number of talisman pens are all problems. After all, there are only 100 monks in Qi County, and the resource reserves in this area will not be much. In addition, after the talisman template is manufactured, the monks need to import spiritual energy, which is also a constraint. For now, 500 pieces, we have the ability to produce 500 first-order body talismans in a short period of time. Lin Li touched his chin and thought, 500 pieces? It's better to have it than not. Academician Hu, I officially grant you the production authority of the first-order body talisman. You select a few people to list a project proposal. In addition, don't stop related research. Our goal is the Sea of Stars, and the first-order body talisman is just an appetizer. We will strive to develop a talisman with stronger defense as soon as possible. As for this kind of talisman, I think we should call it Psionic Shield. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Simultaneous Translator and Exploration Plan. One day later, in the research room of the language project team of Xinhou Camp, the main cotters of the camp gathered together. Lin Ziming looked at a small black square box with some curiosity. Professor Ma, is this thing really useful? Ma Ning on the side curled his lips at him and crossed his hands in front of his chest. This is a simultaneous translation machine made by our language project team with the assistance of the base camp. It has been tested many times. If you don't believe it, you can try it. That's right. Just as Ma Ning said. The rabbits have made a simultaneous translation machine. At this time, it has been a full 11 days since Chixin City and the rabbits officially signed a trade agreement. During this time, the language team led by Ma Ning has been analyzing the language and writing of the Great Mo world almost day and night. After all, the language barrier is one of the biggest communication barriers currently encountered by both sides. However, in this language analysis process, the person who played the biggest role was not Ma Ning, nor Wei Niandong. It was the time traveler who wrote the Spring Festival couplets Cheng Shiking. In the language materials written by this Chinese teacher before his death, a total of more than 9,000 Great Mo words corresponding to Chinese characters were recorded. There are even 2 jade slips with clear pronunciations, which have been passed down from generation to generation. You know, the Xinhua dictionary only has more than 10,000 characters. Perhaps it is the same as the letter left by Wei Siming. Cheng Shiking's textbook also contains countless complex emotions and a trace of illusory expectations. This is the obsession and thoughts of a wanderer on the inheritance of his hometown culture. It is also a perfect interpretation of an educator's job. With this textbook left by Cheng Shiking, with the assistance of Wei Niandong, a bilingual genius, the project team conducted a detailed and accurate analysis of the Damo language family. The team finally compiled more than 6,000 common Damo characters and more than 15,000 less commonly used Damo characters. The corresponding numbers of Chinese characters are about 2,500 and 7,000. After all, the history of the Damo world is older than that of China, and the history of cultivation alone is tens of thousands of years. In addition, its territory is vast and its social structure is special. It is normal that the language complexity is higher than that of China. After the language compilation is completed, the next thing is very simple. Ma Ning and others compiled these materials into a detailed audio-visual file and sent it back to the Language Research Institute under the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. With the assistance of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, the Language Research Institute used the supercomputer Mengzhong to analyze the tones. Finally, several simultaneous translators were urgently produced. This is not some black technology that is out of touch with reality. In 2019, the person personally demonstrated the effect of the 7-language simultaneous translator at the conference, without any human assistance. If you are interested, you can search for WMT competition, of course. Due to language environment, emotions and other reasons, these simultaneous translators produced by the Chinese Academy of Sciences cannot achieve absolute AI translation accuracy for the time being. But they should be sufficient for some daily communication. According to actual tests, the first translation accuracy of these simultaneous translators is about 83.7%, and the second translation accuracy is as high as 92.4%. This is undoubtedly a major technological breakthrough. With this translator, the development speed of the camp can be accelerated by at least 60%. Not to mention the radiation effect it brings. In addition, The translator is different from a missile fighter, which can be completely covered up by the saying of spiritual weapon. After all, the word translation is not a very intuitive concept for most civilians and even practitioners in the Great Mo realm. There are even beast speakers in this world, and the appearance of a magic weapon that can translate languages is at least much more acceptable than the 59th modification. The site returned to the headquarters. Lin Ziming and Man Ying have known each other for quite some time, so he also knew that Man Ying was not really angry. Seeing this, he smiled and said, "It just so happens that I learned a word in the Wei Mansion a few days ago, and it's just right to try it out." After saying that, Lin Ziming picked up the simultaneous translator, coughed and cleared his throat, and in less than 2 seconds, a male voice came from the simultaneous translator, "You are so beautiful." Swish. In an instant, the eyes of everyone present looked at Lin Ziming with something wrong. A drop of cold sweat suddenly slid down Lin Ziming's face, and he waved his hands frantically. No, this sentence doesn't mean hello, right? Old Ma, there must be something wrong with your machine. Bullshit. Man Ying snorted and sneered. The accuracy of this machine is indeed not 100%, but it is impossible to misinterpret a meaning like this. Besides, Damoy's hellos, and, as soon as Man Ying finished speaking, Wang Qiang on the side suddenly said slyly, "Colonel Lin, I remember you went to see Chief Wei that day." The eyes of everyone present looked at Lin Ziming in an instantly weird way. Lin Ziming was about to explain, but Yan Xiaoxin beside him suddenly shook his head. "Xiao Wang, don't say such things casually." Lin Ziming felt a little relieved, and was about to praise his good brother for being righteous, when he heard Yan Xiaoxin say faintly, "It was Wei Niandong who translated for him that day." Stop. Seeing that the situation was getting more and more distorted, Lin Ziming couldn't help but explain, "Wei Niandong's sister taught me this." Everyone present stretched out their voices at the same time, and gossip sparks flashed in their eyes. Okay. Finally, Lin Li spoke. "This matter is Colonel Lin's privacy, so don't pursue it. The simultaneous interpreter has been tested on more than 60,000 sets of vocabulary, and the accuracy should be very high. So Colonel Lin, you handle your own business. I just remind you of one thing, there is no reproductive isolation between Earthlings and Damo people." Lin Ziming. Then Lin Li coughed. "Okay, let's talk about business. It will be dawn in more than 50 hours. In the next 7 days, our tasks are still very heavy. Several scientific research projects cannot be stopped. At the same time, the feedback from the Wei Mansion on the power equipment is very good. The power transformation plan for the whole city should be put on the agenda. The second is the Lingxi mine. At present, the exploration task of Deputy Director Lei has been basically completed, and the mine protection team has also been in place. According to the latest handover information, tomorrow, the base camp will transport several 1,130 close-in defense guns to supplement the firepower, and the mine will strive to start construction within 72 hours. Finally, there is the problem of the airport. The infrastructure construction of the military base will take some time, but our airport must be repaired first. Yesterday, Hufei Group supplied several pulse devices through its own high-cost power generation equipment and successfully assembled 4 armed helicopters. So, our exploration map needs to be expanded. There are 3 main exploration targets this time. First, the 2-headed cattle herd. We have only captured more than 40 heads now. Cough. The experiment dissected more than a dozen heads, and the remaining number is obviously not enough. The second is large rivers and lakes. I don't need to say much about the terrain and topography. This is the information that must be mastered. The third is other cities. The area we are currently developing is of course Qi County, but we still need to grasp some clues about other cities around, especially those large cities. If conditions permit, we can also go there in the name of a caravan to see if we can collect other information. The above are our main tasks for the next few days. If there are no other questions, everyone, get ready. Tomorrow is the payday for the construction site. Quotation mark. Chapter 63, Returning to the City After Receiving Salary in the Chinese Supermarket. 57.1 kilogram, it's heavier. Zhao Qianju jumped off the weighing platform swiftly, glanced at the long line behind him, and said to Wang Timu beside him, "I gained half a caddy today. Timu, how about you?" Wang Timu showed him a simple smile. "Uncle Zhao, I gained 1 caddy, 49 kilograms. Zhao Qianju smiled and patted Wang Timu on the shoulder. "It's good that it's heavier. I've become much stronger in the past few days, it's strange to say. Since 4 of these novel objects called weighing scales appeared on the construction site a few days ago. Almost every free time, there will be a large number of refugees. Oh no, now they are called workers. There will be a large number of workers gathering in front of the weighing platform, just to see if they are heavier than yesterday. Zhao Qianzhu is one of them. He himself can't explain why he likes this. Those Chinese people have meat every meal and are full. It's impossible not to get fat. But he just wants to weigh himself every day. Seeing the numbers that were slightly larger than the day before, I felt inexplicably happy. But what made Zhao Qianzhu even happier was that more and more workers began to believe in the Chinese. At the beginning, among the more than 400 workers, only a few believed that these Chinese had no ill intentions. Because the refugees had experienced too much darkness, they were already sensitive and would not easily trust people anymore. After all, eating 1 or 2 full meals is really nothing. To put it bluntly, death row prisoners have to eat a meal before being beheaded. Who knows if these Chinese will feed them and do something. This world has evil rituals such as blood sacrifice. But now that a few days have passed, almost no one doubts this matter anymore. The construction site is full of vitality and vitality. The reason is very simple. First, the clothes and supplies that the Chinese have given them these days have long exceeded the value of a human life. Second, the refugees can feel that these Chinese are really good to them. For example, the new political workers are both enthusiastic and kind. From time to time, they would ask if you have eaten enough, if you have enough clothes, if you have any other difficulties, etc. In the evening, they would gather with everyone and use a small black box to ask everyone about their past. Some other supervisors holding tubes were shy and didn't talk much, perhaps because of their personalities. But they never beat or scolded any refugees, and they would take the lead in encountering accidents. For example, the day before yesterday, when Zhao Qianzhu and his team were moving bricks, a young worker next to them suddenly fainted. After a check by a Chinese man in a white coat on the construction site, he said it was severe anemic shock and needed blood transfusion. Almost the moment these words were spoken, all the migrant workers around them lowered their heads and pretended to be ostriches. Although they didn't understand the principle of blood drawing, they were very clear about one thing: Zhao Xiaoyu, who fainted, was a human, so the blood transfused must be human blood. Is there anyone more suitable than the refugees present? What was the result? More than a dozen supervisors nearby didn't even look at the refugees. They rolled up their sleeves and rushed over without saying a word, shouting something like, "What blood type am I?" They were more active than the other, and finally saved the young worker. From the beginning to the end, the migrant workers around didn't lose a hair. Perhaps it was because of their similar appearance to the Chinese. The poor people in the Damo world inherited the same character as the Chinese nation. As long as someone feeds them and treats them sincerely, they will follow you wholeheartedly. After several incidents, the migrant workers completely believed in the Chinese. And the sentence Zhao Qianzhu said that day, because they treat us as human beings, it has become a widely circulated sentence among the refugees. Like the fat man Wang in the kitchen team, because of his enthusiasm and generous servings. Someone even carved a longevity tablet for him and secretly kowtowed to it every day. Just when Zhao Qianzhu came to his senses and was about to call Wang Timu to the construction site, the loudspeaker at the entrance suddenly sounded, "Attention, fellow workers in Qi County, attention, fellow workers in Qi County, gather at the dormitory entrance immediately after hearing this message. Wages will be paid in half an hour. After the wages are paid, we will arrange for everyone to go back to Qi County." Repeat again, as the loudspeaker swept past. The crowd in front of the scale was silent for 2 seconds, and suddenly burst into cheers. Without weighing themselves, they ran towards the dormitory. Zhao Qianzhu and Wang Timu looked at each other. "Let's go." The dormitory for the refugees is located on the northwest side of the construction site. It is a small building made of light steel frame and composite color steel plate. There are a total of 6 such small buildings in the camp, each of which is divided into 2 floors, and each floor has 20 dormitories. The 6 small buildings are opposite each other in threes, with an open space in the middle, which can accommodate nearly 1,500 people in total. Of course, since the number of the first batch of refugees is only over 400, the camp has temporarily only used 2 dormitory buildings for accommodation. At the same time, considering that the migrant workers had just arrived in an unfamiliar environment, They might have a certain desire to stick together. Therefore, when the camp allocated dormitories, it took the method of giving priority to acquaintances and then randomly inserting them. Zhao Qianzhu's dormitory was a typical acquaintance group. In addition to Wang Timu, Zhao Qianzhu and Zhuzi, Ahua, Niba, and another migrant named Yizi formed a standard 6-person dormitory. When Zhao Qianzhu and Wang Timu arrived outside the dormitory building, hundreds of migrant workers had gathered on the open space. Under the guidance of some soldiers and political cadres, these migrant workers were orderly arranged into several square formations according to the dormitories. In the middle of the open space, there was a large table, and several Chinese people were calculating something. Lao Zhao, Timu, we are here. Hearing the familiar shouts, Zhao Qianzhu turned his head and saw Niba and others gathered not far away. Zhao Qianzhu and Wang Timu walked over quickly to meet their roommates. As he arrived late, Zhao Qianzhu was worried that he had missed some notifications, so he asked, Niba, did the Chinese tell him how to collect the money? Niba nodded, pointed to a political cadre not far away and said, Political Commissar Wang said that we should go up to collect the money according to our dormitory number. Our dormitory number is Building 3, Room 208. When 3208 is called, it will be our turn. Then Niba lowered his voice and said, But I heard that the Chinese people don't seem to give out copper coins, but paper money. After all, Zhao Qianzhu was a tailor and had a lot of experience. Could it be a receipt from a bank? The kind of Hongtong counter opened by the Wei family in the city? Niba shook his head. I don't know about that. Just as everyone was guessing, a man in the center of the venue suddenly picked up a loudspeaker. Dear fellow villagers and workers, we are going to start distributing your wages now. The money we are distributing to everyone this time is called huaxia currency, a paper currency. You may not have seen this kind of money before, but please rest assured. We have reached an agreement with the Wei family. This currency can be used in all the businesses under the name of the Wei family in the city. The person standing next to me is Wei Lianzhang, the housekeeper of the Wei mansion. I believe there are many people who know him here. He can vouch for what I said. In addition, we have also opened a supermarket in Chixin City. Everyone can use huaxia currency to purchase various supplies in the supermarket. Okay, now the dormitory whose name I called, please come up to collect your salary. The first one, 1101. Quotation mark. Chapter 64, Returning to the city after receiving salary in the Chinese supermarket. Dormitory 3208, Zhao Qianzhu and the other 6 people were shocked when they heard the number announced on the loudspeaker. Even though they had prepared themselves in their hearts, when it was their turn to collect the money, even Zhao Qianzhu, the dormitory head, was a little overwhelmed. You know, he was a tailor by profession, and he had experienced collecting money many times before. But he had never been as nervous as today. The 6 people looked at each other, and finally Zhao Qianzhu gritted his teeth and took the lead. The person in charge of distributing wages was a female comrade who looked like an accountant, about 30 years old, wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. She glanced at several people and asked with the help of the simultaneous interpreter, who is Chen Ahua. Ahua raised his hand obediently. It's me. You moved a total of 23,215 bricks in 5 days, and each brick was 1 cent, so your total salary is 232.15 yuan. Please refer to the author's words for the exchange rate and purchase rate conversion. According to the subsidy policy formulated by the camp, all decimal places of wages are unified to the previous one, so the actual salary is 233 yuan. Sign here. A drop of cold sweat slid down Ahua's face. I can't write. The accountant smiled and pointed to a box of mud seals next to him and said, It doesn't matter. Just dip your finger in the ink and press your handprint here. Oh, okay. Ahua did it obediently. He rolled up his sleeves, dipped some mud seals, and pressed hard on the form according to the instructions. Then an assistant handed him a cowhide envelope and said, Fellow villager, this is your salary. Please hold it carefully. There is a denomination reminder in Daomoyu inside, that is, how much a bill is worth. If you don't understand the words, you can look at the picture or ask other people. Ahua took the envelope carefully, and then heard the female accountant say, Yizi, Liu Dazhu, 291 yuan, Niba, 244 yuan. Who is Zhao Qianzhu? Hearing his name, Zhao Qianzhu immediately stepped forward and said nervously, It's me. You moved a total of 27,332 bricks in 5 days, and your salary is 274 yuan. At the same time, Yuan Wang Timu, two fellow villagers, are the head and deputy head of your dormitory, and you are subsidized 30 yuan and 10 yuan respectively. In addition, you are one of the 20 outstanding representatives selected by hundreds of migrant workers, and you are specially awarded 100 yuan. The total is 404 yuan. Sign it. Just as Zhao Qianzhu signed his name in a daze, Lin Li and Shi Zhehan were looking at the salary distribution scene from a distance. Lin Li asked Shi Zhehan, "Director Shi, is Qi County ready?" Shi Zhehan adjusted his glasses and said with a smile, "Captain Lin, don't worry. According to our calculations, of the total salary of less than 150,000 yuan, about 100,000 will flow back into our pockets through the Life supermarket. Of the remaining 50,000 yuan, about 20,000 will be stored by the refugees and will not be seen on the market for the time being. So the real amount that began to circulate in Damo City was about 30,000 Chinese currency, that is, 15,000 copper coins. Equivalent to about 5 spirit stones. This amount can ensure that the economic system of Qi County will have a certain impact, and it will not collapse completely due to excessive force at the beginning, just as Shi Zhehan said. In the agreement signed by the rabbits with the Wei Mansion, the exchange rate between the Chinese currency and the Dama world's basic currency, copper coins, was finally confirmed to be 2-to-1, that is, 2 Chinese currency can be exchanged for 1 standard copper coin. The calculation formula is in the writer's words. The rabbits released 150,000 Chinese currency this time. According to the calculations of the Ministry of Commerce, about 1/5 of this batch of money will flow into the market. This circulation will not cause an economic collapse, because only the industries of the Wei Mansion have opened huaxia currency exchange, and it can effectively introduce the concept of huaxia currency into the trade industry. As long as the industries under the name of the Wei Mansion begin to use huaxia currency for payment, and the credibility rises, it won't take too long for the people to gradually begin to see the shadow of huaxia currency. At the same time, as long as the radiation range of the rabbits becomes larger and larger, huaxia currency will become stronger and stronger. After all, those who understand paper money understand it. The site is back to the refugees. After the salary was paid, under the guidance of the soldiers, the refugees lined up and came to the bus they had taken before, ready to return to Qi County. Zhao Qianzhu still sat in the seat he came from. Compared with the restraint and fear when he came, he looked much calmer at this time. At least there would be no funny scene of not daring to sit. But his expression was still a little nervous. He was not afraid of these huaxia soldiers, but thought of his family who were still in Qi County. His wife was seriously ill, suffering from abdominal pain and edema, and his mother lost her eyes during the escape. Although his younger brother and sister-in-law were around to help take care of them, they were refugees after all, helpless and could only hide in the dark and damp alleys and struggle hard. Zhao Qianzhu couldn't help but tighten the envelope in his arms and looked out the window with some sorrow. I hope An can survive this period. Half an hour later, the bus arrived outside the city. Wei Lianshang, the housekeeper of the Wei Mansion, stood at the door of the bus and shouted with a loudspeaker, "We are now outside the city gate. Everyone can disperse and go home." The location of the Life supermarket is next to the old well in the west of the city. And remember, if you need to move bricks next time, gather at the city gate in 2 days. Zhao Qianzhu hastily wrote down the place and time, and said goodbye to several people in the dormitory in a hurry. Then, like many workers, he held the envelope in his arms. He lowered his head and trotted in a certain direction. Zhao Qianzhu and his family were stranded in Little Lane in the east of the city. That was a piece of land specially vacated by the Wei Mansion for the resettlement of refugees before the beast tide. But it was called resettlement. In fact, they were only given 2 bags of rice and a few firewood, and there was not even a roof to block the wind. After all, there were too many refugees. As a result, while running, Zhao Qianzhu suddenly felt something was wrong. During the few days when he went to the construction site to move bricks, something seemed to have changed in this piece of land in the east of the city. He couldn't help but stop and take a good look around. Then he slapped his head. Yes, the ground is clean. Before he left, this piece of land in the east of the city was full of feces and urine. Some refugees even drowned in the filth. At this time, the original filth in the south of the city was gone, and the air was filled with a pungent but not smelly strange smell. In addition, Zhao Qianzhu also noticed that some of the original refugee gathering points actually had a large number of triangular-shaped things. Zhao Qianzhu had also seen these things on the construction site. Those Chinese people called them tents. And tents. People can live in them. Zhao Qianzhu couldn't help but have an idea in his mind. Could it be that those Chinese people? Then he shook his head and dispelled all kinds of thoughts from his mind. No matter what happened, find your family first. So he quickened his pace and turned around and came to an alley. Then he was stunned. This is an old abandoned alley. Before Zhao Qianzhu left, hundreds of refugees gathered by the wall of this old alley, with ragged clothes, flies flying around, and the whole alley was smelly. But at this moment, this old alley is no longer as dirty and filthy as before. Not only has the road been cleaned up, but there are also dozens of blue tents. Zhao Qianzhu looked forward blankly, hoping to find traces of his family. This is not that. Suddenly, he was stunned. He stared closely at a figure not far away. It was a woman who looked to be in her 40s, thin and with a somewhat vicissitudes of life. At this moment, the woman was sitting in front of a tent, with a bright smile on her face, chatting and laughing with several women around her. In Zhao Qianzhu's memory, this woman should have been desperate, with a hoarse voice, and she would hold her stomach and groan in pain every day. Just when Zhao Qianzhu was stunned, the woman seemed to sense something and looked towards the alley. After seeing Zhao Qianzhu, a brighter smile instantly bloomed on the woman's face. Aju, my illness is cured. Reasons for exchange rate calculation. Chapter 39 mentioned that the ratio of RMB to Lingxi is 1 to 6,100, and the per capita GDP of Chixin City is $440, an average of 238 per month. In Chapter 49, it was mentioned that the reward for a short-term worker is 30 copper coins. The concept of short-term work is 1 Damo day, 7 Earth days, as a work period, so the income of 1 Earth month is 120 coins. From this, it is concluded that the exchange rate between Huaxia currency and copper coins is 238, 120, which is about 2 to 1. Deductions from Damo realm were a routine operation, so an average person only earned about 700 copper coins a year, and it took more than 4 years to collect 1 spirit stone. However, the expenditure of the upper structures of Damo realm was only a few dozen spirit stones, which was in line with the law of a certain pleasure. Chapter 65, returning to the city after receiving salary in the Chinese supermarket. In a fairly spacious tent, Zhao Qianzhu held his 4-year-old son in his arms and listened quietly to his wife's confession. Not long after you left, Aju, a group of stewards from the Wei mansion came over. They first cleaned up all the stuff on the ground and sprayed some disinfectant. In short, the smell in the alley immediately got much better. Then the steward of the Wei mansion distributed food, water and tents to each family. He also repeatedly told us not to drink raw water. If we need water, we can go to the boiler at the entrance of the alley to get hot soup according to the quantity. Since there are many people in our family, the tents we are allocated are larger. Wait, Zhao Qianzhu suddenly interrupted his wife and asked curiously, was it the steward of the Wei mansion who gave the food and tents? Not those Chinese people. Wang Qianwen brushed away a strand of hair that blocked her view and nodded affirmatively. Yes, it was the steward of the Wei mansion. When the things were distributed, no Chinese people were seen. If you don't believe me, go out and have a look. There is a word Wei engraved on our tent. Zhao Qianzhu thought for a few seconds and gradually came back to his senses. These tents, which were obviously designed by Chinese people, were engraved with the word Wei, and the person in charge of the matter was also the steward of the Wei mansion. Perhaps the two sides have reached some agreement. Qi County City will probably be dominated by the Wei mansion in the future. Wang Qianwen did not notice her husband's absent-minded state. At this moment, she was eager to share her experience with her family. After distributing the tents, the servants of the Wei mansion specifically explained that everyone could live here with peace of mind. They also said that there would be some workstations after a while. Anyway, it means work. There will be special guys to do it for us women. When everyone has money and good conditions in the future, another area will be arranged for everyone to live in. After distributing the tents, the steward of the Wei mansion asked people to gather us seriously ill refugees together. Zhao Qianzhu also recovered at this time. Hearing the last sentence, he couldn't help asking, why did they gather you together? They said they were going to do some physical examination. Wang Qianwen showed a trace of fear on her face. At first we thought those people were going to kill all the patients. We were just a burden. I was worried that I would never see you and Xia Abeo again. Zhao Qianzhu gently put his arm around his wife's shoulders and comforted her. No, this must have been instructed by the Chinese. They can't possibly harm us. Wang Kaiyan wiped her tears and nodded. Yes, it was the Chinese who asked us to do that. They gathered us at a place outside the city. They said it was some yard, and there were Chinese people in white coats walking around inside. As she spoke, Wang Kaiyan pulled up her sleeves, revealing a pinhole. His face showed a mixture of embarrassment and excitement. Those Chinese people took some blood from me with a strange tube, and soon they told me what I had. Enteritis and roundworm disease. They gave me some white pills and some kind of IV drip, and then arranged for me to live in that wild yard. As a result, I had a foul stool the next day, and there were worms wriggling inside. Later, I stayed with them for 3 days. And I came back when people could go out. By the way, 2 days is the time those Chinese people said. They also set up a big clock in the city, saying that they would follow the Chinese time in the future. It seems that 7 Chinese days equal 1 big Mori day. I think this is also good, so that we can know what to do at what time in the future. Zhao Qianzhi looked at his wife, whose face was still a little haggard, but whose eyes were full of vitality, and couldn't help but hold her hand tightly. In these short 6 days, he experienced an adventure that seemed like a dream. 6 days ago, he was still worried about his family's future livelihood and sad about his wife's illness. He even prepared 2 copper coins and hid them in the soles of his shoes, intending to use this last bit of money to buy a bamboo mat to send his wife off when she could no longer hold on. But 6 days later, everything changed. He was well fed and well dressed at the construction site, and gained 5 or 6 pounds, while his family had food and a place to stay. Even his wife's abdominal pain was cured. This change made Zhao Qianzhi feel unreal, and he was afraid that this was an illusion he had imagined. Then he suddenly thought of something. His right hand quickly touched his arms. He breathed a sigh of relief after touching an envelope. This real touch could not be a dream. He carefully took the envelope out of his chest, looked outside vigilantly, and said to his wife, "Ayan, let me show you something." Wang Kaiyan had never seen her husband look so vigilant. She suddenly thought of something and lowered her voice in panic. "What's the matter? You didn't steal something from the Chinese?" "Let me tell you." Zhao Qianzhi shook his head and interrupted her. "Don't think too much, I didn't steal anything. Those Chinese are so good to us. If I steal things, would I still be a human being? Ayan, look, these are the wages the Chinese gave me, worth more than 200 copper coins." As he spoke, Zhao Qianzhi opened the envelope, revealing several banknotes and a small card marked with Damoyu. He picked up the small card and looked at the diagram in the sunlight outside the tent. These 3 pink cards are 100 yuan, 50 yuan, and 20 yuan. These 2 are 10 yuan, 5 yuan, and 1 yuan. A total of 404 yuan, equal to 202 copper coins. Wang Kaiyan's breathing suddenly became a little faster. More than 200 copper coins. In this day and age, a short-term job only earns more than 30 copper coins, and the manager will deduct 40% to 50% of it. It's considered a blessing to get 200 copper coins. How long has her husband been at the construction site, and he has already earned 200 copper coins? Seeing his wife's surprise, Zhao Qianzhi touched his head in a naive way. "In fact, normal workers don't have so much. I was the dormitory leader and was selected as an outstanding member, so I got an extra bonus of 100 yuan. Bonus is also money." Wang Kaiyan felt a little dizzy. This was the first time she had seen so much money in recent years. But she soon thought of something and asked her husband, "Aju, this money is a lot, but can it be used? After all, it is not gold, silver, copper, iron or other things. What if no one accepts it?" Zhao Qianzhi shook his head. He was not very worried about this. When the money was distributed, the Wei family's housekeeper Wei was there. He personally assured us that all the industries under the name of the Wei family can use Chinese currency. Those who do not accept the money can report it. Not to mention that the Chinese have set up a live supermarket, saying that all kinds of supplies can be bought in the supermarket, and the supermarket is in the west of the city. There are more than 400 people who have received the money. Those Chinese people can't play tricks on us, right? After saying this, Zhao Qianzhi was silent for a while. He looked at his wife's body and hesitated. "Ayan, can you walk? Otherwise, let's go to the supermarket to have a look." Chapter 66, Returning to the city after receiving salary in the Chinese supermarket. When Zhao Qianzhi supported Wen Kaiyan, brought his brother and sister-in-law to the dry well in the west of the city. The land was already crowded with people who came to watch, and it was very lively. The name of the supermarket built by the rabbits is very simple and clear. The word happiness written in the Damo language is the plaque, and the full name is Happiness Supermarket. Let everyone live a happy life, which is also the most simple pursuit of the rabbits. The supermarket covers an area of about 2,500 square meters, and the business area is just over 2,200 square meters. The specifications are about 40x55. This scale is not very large. The area of Hema and City Super, which are common in China, is 1/3 or even more than that of Happiness Supermarket. Not to mention those Walmart and Carrefour with more than 10,000 or 20,000 square meters. However, in Chichen City, a small place with a population of less than 20,000 and extremely low living material standards, Happiness Supermarket is enough to open the eyes of these natives. Considering that this was the first appearance of the Happy Supermarket, the camp specially dispatched a 60-man duty team. 15 of them were in the open, and the remaining 45 pretended to be civilians and watched the show. Although there may be some differences in skin color and body shape. But don't forget that the camp has special chemical substances. After touching the dirt, put on a straw hat and squatted to the side. It's not a big problem if you don't pay special attention. When Zhao Qianzhou and his family came to the entrance of the supermarket, a soldier stopped them. The soldier held a small loudspeaker in his hand and played a recorded voice. Today, the Happy Supermarket only accepts huaxia currency transactions. Please show a banknote with a face value of more than 10 yuan before entering the supermarket. Banknotes are only used for verification. There is no requirement for compulsory shopping. Everyone can buy as needed. Zhao Qianzhou hurriedly reached his hand into his chest to take out the money, and Wang Qianyuan tacitly turned his body to the side to block the view of the onlookers. A few seconds later, Zhao Qianzhou took out a 10 yuan huaxia currency and was about to show it to the soldier on duty, but he was stunned. Is it you? The soldier on duty in front of him was the simple little soldier Nigu who knelt down with him a few days ago. This is actually not difficult to understand. The soldier who can take on the first guidance task at the construction site must be an elite soldier who has met all the standards in the team. It is completely normal to appear on duty at the first show of the supermarket. After all, being simple and shy does not mean that people are incompetent. There are too many examples of children killing people on the earth. The little soldier obviously recognized Zhao Qianzhou, and his signature simple smile appeared on his face. At the same time, he politely said to Wang Qianyuan and others in the recently mastered Damo language, "Hello, my name is Wei Xian." Zhao Qianzhou bowed to the little soldier, exchanged simple courtesies with each other, and then led his wife and the other two into the supermarket. As soon as he passed the security gate, he didn't even see the whole picture of the supermarket. Zhao Qianzhou's sister-in-law Zhang Xiaoyang pointed at the tile floor and said, "My God, this floor is too clean." Looking at the wide and bright floor, Zhao Qianzhou's face was vaguely surprised and doubtful. Although the four of them are not as dirty as they were before, they are still covered with a lot of dust and gravel. If they dirty other people's floors, they will be very dirty. But soon, Zhao Qianzhou noticed that there were many familiar workers in the supermarket, who were walking around in the supermarket openly at this time. In addition, the Chinese people gave him a sense of trust. So Zhao Qianzhou gritted his teeth and took his wife and others through the security gate. After passing the security gate, the entire supermarket layout was completely displayed in front of several people. All kinds of dazzling and unnamed items instantly made several natives stand still. After a long time, several people gradually came back to their senses. The Happy Supermarket was divided into many sections, and there was a huge sign on the ceiling of each section. The signboards were written with a series of Damo characters such as vegetables, clothing, and food, and were accompanied by picture annotations. It was easy to understand. There was also a row of shopping carts at the entrance of the supermarket, with the words "free trial in the store, return at checkout" marked in Damo language. It was a coincidence. The appearance of the shopping cart was somewhat similar to the trolleys Zhao Qianzhou had seen on the construction site before, so it didn't take much effort for Zhao Qianzhou to master the pushing skills of the shopping cart. Then he discussed with his family and decided to go to the meat area closest to them first. The slaughtering industry in Damo realm is basically monopolized by families. The families here do not refer to the lord families of the city, but may also be other small immortal cultivation families in the city. Under this monopoly, the price of edible meat in Damo realm has always been high, and the general price is 40 copper coins per catty. Combined with the fact that wages are easily swallowed and deducted, ordinary civilians may not be able to eat 3 taels of meat a month, After all, there are other living expenses. While walking towards the meat area, Zhao Qianzhu's younger brother Zhao Qianjin secretly said in a low voice, "These Chinese people are good, but I don't know how much they sell. After all, opening a shop is not like giving food. Giving food is a short-term charity, and you don't have to calculate the cost. If you really say that you will lose a lot, you may not lose much. But opening a shop is a long-term business that requires a steady stream of money. It doesn't make sense to sell things to us at a loss, right? If you ask me, if a pound of meat is within 30 copper coins, we will buy half a pound of it. Em is about to celebrate her 70th birthday, and we have to grit our teeth and give her a good meal." Zhao Qianzhu didn't say anything. His younger brother has been a smart person since he was a child, and he often thinks about things that others don't think about. If it weren't for the beast tide, he would have planned to support his younger brother to go to private school. Just as Zhao Qianjin said, doing business always means making money, and it is indeed unrealistic to expect the Chinese to make too much profit on the price. The group walked 7 or 8 meters and soon came to the meat area. At the entrance of the meat area, there was a price list with pictures and texts. When Zhao Qianzhu and the other 4 saw the price list, they opened their mouths at almost the same time. Among them, Zhao Qianjin, the rationalist, opened his mouth the widest. Chicken breast is 5 yuan per catty. Huaxia pork is 12 yuan per catty. Huaxia beef is 13 yuan per catty. Wang Qianwen was stunned for a long time, and finally blurted out, "Oh my god, this is too cheap." Although these pork and beef are not the same as the common meat in the Great Mo realm. But as a former cook, it is not difficult for Wang Qianwen to judge the quality of meat by sight. The color of these pork is bright red, without any black or gray marks, indicating that this is fresh meat that has just been slaughtered. The white greasy fat on these meats means that a lot of oil and water can be boiled out. Just marinate it for a while, cover the pot and simmer it, and it will be a delicious meal. The price of 12 huaxia coins means that this kind of pork only costs 6 copper coins per catty. Wang Qianwen couldn't help it. She swallowed her saliva, and gently pulled Zhao Qianzhu's sleeve. Aju, the tacit understanding between the couple made Zhao Qianzhu instantly understand his wife's thoughts. He thought for a while, "Ayan, sister-in-law. You two are responsible for picking meat here, and Jin and I will go to the vegetable area to take a look. We have 400 yuan in our hands, and there is an elderly person and 2 children at home. Let's buy 20 or 40 yuan of meat, which should be enough for 2 or 3 days. Remember to pick fresh ones, and don't buy too much of each kind of meat. After all, we don't know what it tastes like." Wang Qianwen and Sang Ziyuan nodded heavily and assured, "Aju, uncle, don't worry." Zhao Qianzhu took his brother and went straight to the vegetable area. "Let's hurry up and pick some fresh ones. When the workers from the south and north of the city come, it will be difficult to grab things." After arriving at the vegetable area, Zhao Qianzhu was stunned again. There were all kinds of vegetables in front of him, and the quantity was even more than that in the meat area. Some of them were potatoes, cabbages, and mushrooms that I had seen on the construction site, while others were completely unknown and could only be named by the big Mo on the sign. "Brother, what should we pick?" Zhao Qianzhu's eyes quickly scanned the area, and when he saw a glass jar, his eyes lit up. "Bring me the stinky mustard stems first." An hour later, Zhao Qianzhu and his group of 4 walked out of the supermarket carrying a lot of things, and everyone's face was filled with happy smiles. On the way home, looking at the tents engraved with the word Wei, Zhao Qianjin suddenly sighed. Why don't those Chinese people be ruthless and snatch this city from the Wei family? They are not incapable of doing so. The 2 women were asking questions at the side, and Zhao Qianzhu heard his brother's hidden meaning. Zhao Qianjin had already seen the tricks between Huaxia and the Wei mansion. At least the 2 sides could not be just a simple relationship between the main family branches, as publicly stated. Listening to his brother sigh, Zhao Qianzhu said slowly, "Being able to do something and knowing how to do it are 2 different things. How could a family that treats us as worthless people do those things?" To use the words of political commissar Wang on the construction site, this is called the style of a great country. Zhao Qianjin looked at his brother deeply and said, "Brother, you have changed." Zhao Qianzhu was slightly stunned. "Yes, I have gained weight." "Didn't you know this a long time ago?" Zhao Qianjin shook his head. "I'm not talking about your body." Then he was silent for a while, as if he had made up his mind. "Brother, I will go to the construction site next time too." Chapter 67, 10-Year Life Extension Pill. The day after the salary was paid, 3 suns reappeared in the sky. At this time, all the leaders of the Xinhao camp, including Yan Shaoxin, a Kali who was moving bricks 10 kilometers away, gathered at the light gate at the same time. The reason why the camp was set up in such a formation this time was mainly to welcome a person, an elder who had done great deeds for this country. 20 minutes later, the light gate fluctuated slightly. A thin old man was supported by someone and walked out of the door. The old man was thin and had a face similar to that of an old farmer, haggard and weathered. But his eyes burned with a strange power and flashed with an unyielding light. Once this light shines, it can even defy the heavens. This is not a fantasy description. In fact, he has already done this in the universe outside the light gate. At this time, an asteroid named after him was floating in space. Number 8117. Seeing the visitor, Lin Li's face suddenly surged with excitement. He walked up quickly and shook the old man's hand with reverence. Mr. Yuan. Mr. Yuan smiled and patted Lin Li's arm, and said in Mandarin with a strong Hunan accent, "Hey, don't be so polite. You are Xiao Lin, right? I saw you when I received the Science and Technology Progress Award 2 years ago." I checked the video. Mr. Yuan often used the interjection "a." Then Mr. Yuan, with the help of his assistant, greeted the main leaders of the camp present. And Wang Qiang, Zhou Yuangxing and other young scientific researchers could only watch from the outside due to their rank. But this did not affect their excitement at all. Just kidding, this is Mr. Yuan. To put it in a sentence on the internet, no one can call me fat, except Mr. Yuan, because I really ate his rice, put it in other fantasy novels. The moment Mr. Yuan just walked through the light gate, there must be a golden body of merit from heaven, right? After getting to know the camp's leaders, Yuan Lao looked around curiously. Is this the Damo realm? The geographical environment looks somewhat similar to the local area. Lin Li supported Yuan Lao with one hand and said with a smile, "Yuan Lao, the geographical environment of the Damo realm is somewhat similar to the local area, but there are still some differences in the plants and soil composition. We have tried to pick and plant some local plants on the land of the Damo realm, and set up 2 control groups. One group used harmless growth hormones such as bersinolide, and the other group simulated a purely natural environment. Unfortunately, the survival rate of both groups of local plants was not ideal. But the local rice seedlings are not among them. Although the seedlings we planted did not grow well, they did not wither and die. In other words, it is possible to grow local food on the land of the Damo realm. In addition, there is also a magical soil called Lingshan in the Damo realm, which is specially used to grow spiritual medicines and spiritual rice. Let's not talk about spiritual medicines for the time being. The spiritual rice cultivated by spiritual rice is extremely beneficial to the human body. Practitioners before the Jinden stage cannot practice fasting, and the most they consume is spiritual rice. When Yuan Lao heard the word rice, he immediately became interested. He asked impatiently, "Spiritual fields sound like a good thing. How about it? If all the spiritual rice is planted in a scene of spiritual fields, how much can it produce?" Lin Li had already memorized the relevant information in his mind, so he quickly answered, "Yuan Lao. According to the Wei Mansion, 1 mu of first-level spiritual fields can theoretically produce about 500 kilograms of spiritual rice, but the highest output of the spiritual fields in the Wei Mansion is just over 200 kilograms. In addition, the spiritual rice yield is 30% minus 35%, and the highest will not exceed 40%. Yuan Lao frowned and looked disappointed. Only 200 kilograms of spiritual rice per mu? Minus the hulling rate, it's only 60 to 70 kilograms of rice? What kind of food is this? Our super excellent 1,000 number rice has been raised last year, and the yield per mu can reach more than 2,000 kilograms. Lin Li smiled bitterly and explained, "Yuan Lao, those spiritual rice are for practitioners to eat. It contains various unknown substances, not the general concept of rice." Old Yuan snorted, looking somewhat dissatisfied. This stubborn old man had his own judgment on things. If they can't grow well, they can't grow well. The rice is not ordinary rice, but the land is not ordinary land. They are all food for people to eat. If they can't grow well, it means their skills are poor. I heard that the ancestors of the Wei family were Chinese. This is even more unreasonable. How can Chinese people not know how to grow crops? Come on, take me to see. After saying this, old Yuan patted his assistant's hand and prepared to leave. However, before the assistant could make any move, Lin Li quickly blocked him. "Old Yuan, wait a minute." Old Yuan looked at Lin Li, thinking for a few seconds. as if he had thought of something. Suddenly he said, "Captain Lin, do you want to have a physical examination? I have checked in the Magic City, and I am very healthy. Of course I have to check. This is the instruction issued by the headquarters. Please don't make it difficult for me." But compared to the examination, there is one more important thing. After Lin Li finished speaking, he took out a small porcelain bottle from his body and carefully poured out an emerald green pill. "Old Yuan, take this first." Old Yuan looked at the pill with some curiosity. "What is this?" "Rainbow candy." Old Yuan likes to eat candy very much. Lin Li smiled and explained, "This is the pill provided by the head of the Wei family, called the Vitality Pill. A Vitality Pill can improve the body of ordinary people and delay the aging of some organs. After all, at your age, even if you have awakened your spiritual roots, the recovery effect of your body in a short period of time is difficult to match that of the Vitality Pill, so taking the pill directly is currently the fastest way. We have previously taken some pill scraps and experimented on mice, and the effect is amazing. At the same time, we have also analyzed the composition of the pilgrims and have not detected any harmful substances. To put it bluntly, the Wei Mansion would not dare to deceive us with this matter. So you can take it with confidence." Yuan Lao stared at the pill for a few seconds, put his hands behind his back, and slowly asked Lin Li, "Xiao Lin, this pill is very expensive, right?" Lin Li raised his eyebrows slightly, touched his nose and said, "Not very, to be honest, it's quite expensive, more than 2,000 spirit stones." Facing the stern Yuan Lao, Lin Li immediately backed down and explained honestly. "The Vitality Pill is a pill that can be taken by mortals, which can extend life by more than 10 years. Its refining difficulty and process are much more than that of the spiritual awakening pill, so the price is very high. It will take a long time for the Wei Mansion to buy a Vitality Pill. Since the Spirit Stone vein is still in the exploration period, there will be no Spirit Stone output for a while. So we exchanged this pill with the Wei Mansion for a complete drainage system." Note, I checked the data. In 2014, the drainage pipeline budget of a county in southern Sichuan was more than 9 million yuan, with a total length of 9,000 meters. But is this price reasonable? It seems a bit too much. Is there any expert in related fields who can tell me? But the headquarters has agreed to give you the pill, and all the expenses will be borne by the headquarters. For your contribution, this is what you deserve." Yuan Lao looked at him deeply, and said nothing more. He reached out to take the pill. Should I swallow it directly? Lin Li was stunned. He had already prepared to spend a lot of time to persuade Yuan Lao, but who would have thought that Yuan Lao's reaction would be like this? Seeing Lin Li's sluggish look, Yuan Lao almost figured out his thoughts. Old Yuan let out a long breath and said with a smile, "Xiao Lin, do you think I will refuse this pill?" Then, before Lin Li nodded, Old Yuan said again, "A pill worth more than 2,000 spirit stones, converted into Chinese currency, it must be. Wow, more than 12 million? I am a very frugal person, but I also know how to calculate. I am 91 years old this year, and I know my own body. It is not as good as it used to be. If I had not come to the Great Mo realm, I would not take this pill no matter what. Even if it can extend my life by 100 years, I would not eat it. But now the Great Mo realm needs my old bones. I have to hold on for a few more years. My old bones are 10 years younger, and I am sure that I can earn 1.2 million for the country every year." Lin Li suddenly felt a little stuffy in his chest. Liu Xianqian and Hua Jun not long ago, Old Yuan at this time, and even Lin Li himself. All of them are over 60 years old. These old people have devoted most of their lives to the country and should retire to enjoy their old age. Now I have turned into firewood in another world without hesitation, burning myself, emitting light and heat. Thinking of this, Lin Li looked deeply at Wang Qiang, Zhou Yuangxing and others not far away. Young people of the next generation, while we can still burn, grow up quickly. The burning of fire requires not only firewood, but also new firewood. The 7th update is presented. The next update will be at 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. tomorrow, which is the 2nd, not 2 p.m., and the explosion will start in the middle of the month. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 68, Prelude to the Battle and Wu Fan's Talent. Not long after Yuan Lao and his team arrived at the Great Mo realm, Shi's Erhong, who was stationed in Qi County, hurried back to the camp with a jade slip and found Lin Li. Along with the jade slip, he also brought back an explosive piece of news. The Wei Mansion had discovered a group of two-headed bulls. To be precise, It was a group of demon beasts that included a large number of two-headed bulls. Upon hearing this, Lin Li immediately called all the responsible persons together and held a meeting. This news comes at the perfect time. We just met with Mr. Yuan and didn't have time to disperse. You know, with the increase in the functions of the camp, it's not as easy for us to get together now as before. Lin Li first sighed that it was not easy to get together, and then said to Shi Zhehong, Director Shi, please introduce the situation of this group of monsters. Shi Zhehong nodded and handed the jade slip to Xiao Yi who came with him. Comrade Xiao Yi, please input some spiritual energy into this jade slip. This thing can't be opened without spiritual energy. Okay, Xiao Yi carefully took the jade slip and tried to mobilize some spiritual energy into it. After successfully guiding the energy, Xiao Yi gradually began to master the use of a little spiritual energy, and could be regarded as a quasi-practitioner. With the input of spiritual energy, swish, an image quickly appeared in front of everyone, somewhat similar to the virtual light screen in science fiction movies. The center of the picture is a mountain with dense and lush vegetation, and the mountain covers a large area. The height of this mountain is about 800 to 900 meters, and there are more than a dozen short peaks of more than 100 meters around it. If you have to say it, it can be regarded as a small mountain range. The person who recorded the video was about 500 meters away from the mountain. In the video, you can vaguely see a large number of monsters walking in the mountain. There are scaly giant snakes, two-headed bulls and giant monsters that everyone has seen before, as well as some monsters similar to antelopes and tigers. There are even some bird monsters flying in the air. After the video was played, everyone looked at Shi Zhehong. Shi Zhehong coughed lightly, straightened his throat, and said, the person who filmed the video is a cultivator at the 9th level of foundation building, from a distant city. As shown in the video, there are many types of monsters, at least more than 20 races. In fact, they were originally a main force in another group of beasts. After the beasts fought a battle with Shanghai City, which was about 1,000 miles away from us and had many giant warriors, they missed the last time to return to the channel. So, led by several third-level monsters, this group of monsters occupied a mountain to recuperate. According to our judgment, they should be preparing to defend it and wait for the next channel to open. After hearing this, Yan Xiaoxin on the side suddenly asked, Director Shi, how did these monsters escape to this mountain? Don't the surrounding cities pursue or organize forces to encircle and suppress them together? Shi Zhehong shook his head and explained, the area we are in is very remote. The largest city nearby is Shanghai City, which was attacked by the monsters. The strongest is only at the 8th level of Jinden. As Shanghai City suffered heavy losses in the beast tide, a large number of practitioners were seriously injured or even killed. It is basically impossible to organize manpower to encircle it in the short term. As for other cities, have you heard of Martin Niemela's short poem? The headquarters fell into silence. Only Manning said slowly, when they came to arrest the union organizers, I did not stand up to oppose it. Wait for Manning to finish reading the poem. Shi Zhehong sighed and continued, according to the Wei Mansion, there are 3-level monsters among the monsters. If the surrounding cities want to encircle and suppress these monsters, they must pay at least 3 Jinden realms and 10 foundation building realms. In addition, the monsters absorbed enough blood and ki when attacking the city, and they should not harass other cities in a short time. Therefore, most of the city's lord families are unwilling to take action. Manning and Dai Hongchao looked at each other. As sociologists, they both saw a hint of helplessness in each other's eyes. The cities in the Great Mo realm basically represent independent regimes. They are as chaotic as the early Eastern Zhou dynasty. If you have a piece of land, you can call it that. In this situation, either they were attacked by a large beast tide and were forced to help each other, or 3 or 2 families nearby formed a small alliance through marriage. So when they learned that the monsters had enough blood to consume, most cities chose to play ostrich. The remaining families with intentions could only shrug their shoulders helplessly, curse their teammates and then follow the game. This is the norm of separatist regimes. To be honest, there are actually many similar examples in Chinese history. To put it nicely, it is limited vision and insufficient pattern. To put it bluntly, it is short-sighted and stupid. It is different from the social form issues that Ma and I are concerned about. As a soldier, Lin Ziming's entry point is biased towards the combat angle. Director Shi, how far are the monsters from us? Are there other cities in the vicinity of the location? And how many monsters of all levels are there? Shi Zhehong took out a map from his site and spread it on the table. compared with the topographic map made by the camp. The information drawn on this map is much simpler, and it only roughly marks some information about mountains, rivers with graphics. This is a map provided by the Wei family. Its accuracy can barely reach the kilometer level. Although the accuracy is not high, it is still no problem to determine the general direction. Shi Ziyang explained the origin of the map, and then pointed to a direction on the map. The mountain is about 150 kilometers away from the camp in a straight line, that is, about 300 miles, and the direction is east by south. This mountain is called Xiaolianzi Mountain, with a height of about 600 meters. There are 3 or 4 small hills around it, and other information is unknown. There is no city within 50 miles of Xiaolianzi Mountain. If it is expanded to 100 miles, there are 2 cities, and the highest combat power is about the 8th to 9th level of the foundation building period. After all, the group of monsters is also in the recovery period of war damage, and it is impossible to find a place near the city as a base. As for the number of monsters, the total number is about 30,000, and the number of 2-headed bulls is between 6 and 8,000. There are about 15 to 20 surviving second-level monsters, and 5 third-level monsters, all of which are in the early 3rd level. 1/3 of them are seriously injured. After all, they just had a tragic fight with a big city. However, one thing to mention is that among this group of monsters, there are more than 300 first-level birds and several second-level birds, plus a 3rd-level eagle monster. After listening to Shi Ziyang's introduction, everyone in the command center had different expressions. A large number of second-level monsters and 3rd-level monsters. It seems that this is a tough nut to crack. Lin Li touched his chin, his face uncertain. The value of the 2-headed cow is naturally needless to say. According to the analysis of the plant laboratory, the meat of various parts of the 2-headed cow is of very high quality, which is the hope for rabbits to break through the constraints of beef imports. If it is cultivated properly, there is even hope for export in the future, allowing rabbits to become upstream merchants in the meat supply chain. The bone spurs around the neck of the 2-headed cow can be used as medicine after grinding, which has an extremely obvious healing effect on rheumatism. Because of its sufficient blood supply, the cow heart can be called a post-operative recovery artifact for cardiovascular patients. In addition, that has a very strong tonic effect. Because of the absorption of earth energy, the cow dung is full of fertility, and it is no exaggeration to say that it is the highest level of fertilizer. Cow hair can also be made into talisman pens, and even cow bones have an excellent benign effect on the growth and development of children. There is no doubt that this is a species that can be called a treasure. After entering the slaughterhouse, you don't even have to go to the crematorium. Considering the frequency of the appearance of the space-time channel, the group of 2-headed cows found by the Wei family is likely to be the only group that can be locked in a short period of time. In addition, the location of Xiaolianzi Mountain is remote, and the possibility of encountering such an opportunity in the future is very small. But this is only because the external conditions are suitable. Considering that the group of monsters is defending Xiaolianzi Mountain, and there are also many dam-forming monsters, among which there is even a 3rd-level eagle that can fly. This battle is not easy to fight. If you just want to wipe out this group of monsters, there is actually no problem. Throw air-consuming weapons such as fuel air bombs and white phosphorus bombs, or have a few rounds of firepower cleaning. If it doesn't work, just take a big guy and transport it within 20 kilometers to launch it. To be honest, it is not difficult to annihilate this group of monsters. But the problem is that the rabbits want living 2-headed cows. Rabbits don't have the ability to chase souls in the underworld like the old immortal Zhuduang. If they die, they will really die. How can they be domesticated and reproduced? And once they choose to fight monsters at close range, they must consider the individual combat power of the opponent. During the double monthly ticket period, please vote. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69, Prelude to the Battle and Wu Fan's Talent. Considering that the appearance of the monster cluster involves the possibility of a major battle, the nature of the situation has far exceeded the authority of the Xinhuo camp. So after summarizing the information that has been mastered, Lin Li did not dare to neglect it and quickly fed back the situation to the core layer. 3 hours later, the core layer replied, "Note, please see the author's words. The camp is allowed to launch a medium-sized battle for the purpose of capturing the two-headed bull. Considering that the beast tide will not move in the short term, the recovery time of high-level monsters is relatively long. It takes 2 months for Wei Fan to recover at the 9th level of key training, and the recovery period of the 3rd level monsters is at least 3 months. Therefore, the core layer set the preparation time for this battle as 50 days. The purpose of the entire mission is very clear: capture at least 2,000 two-headed bulls alive, capture as many other species as possible when conditions permit, and completely annihilate the man-eating monsters in the monster cluster. Based on the above ultimate goal, the core layer made specific instructions on reconnaissance, mobilization and research and development during the preparation period. The so-called reconnaissance. It means that the Hufei group is required to expand the signal transmission range to 20 kilometers outside Xiaolianzi Mountain in the form of a combination of balloon relay and base station. At the same time, the core layer also requires Yan Xiaoxin to send his information engineering squadron to the vicinity of Xiaolianzi Mountain, set up a detection point at the relay boundary, and use drones to conduct reconnaissance of the outer body of the mountain. During the reconnaissance, there is no need to consider the loss of drones. The geographical location of the mountain and the surrounding routes are the core. At the same time, the total number of visible monsters should be counted as much as possible to prevent certain unexpected situations. Strive to draw a clear topographic map within 1 to 2 weeks. At that time, the Chinese local staff will use this topographic map as a reference to customize a concealed marching route that can carry large troops. As for the second mobilization task, the main body of action is mainly in the local area. Considering that there are many participants in this battle and the demand for weapons and equipment is high, the rash mobilization of troops in a short period of time may attract some attention from the outside world. Therefore, the core layer decided to hold a large-scale exercise in a certain area in the northwest, mobilizing a group of combat forces in the name of testing the rapid reaction force, but in fact quietly transferring another powerful combat force to the Damo realm. I dare not write in detail. Anyway, that's the idea. Understand it? At the same time, the base camp will transport some comprehensive weapons such as Land Shield 2000 to the Damo realm during the preparation period. This batch of weapons is mainly anti-aircraft firepower, focusing on the flying forces among the monsters. At that time, there will be a large amount of ground-to-air firepower coverage, plus the debugged armed helicopters. Even if there are third-level flying monsters on the opposite side. With sufficient preparation, it is still not a big problem for the rabbits to have an advantage in air and space firepower. After all, according to the intelligence, the third-level giant eagle is only at the early stage of the third level, and it was seriously injured in the siege. It would be good if it can recover to 70% of its original combat power within 50 days. The initial stage of the third-level monster is roughly equivalent to the cultivators of the second or third level of the giant realm. The flying speed is calculated based on the fastest sword cultivator among the monks, which is only more than 220 meters per second, about 0.64 times the speed of sound. The firing rate of the Land Shield 2000 is 4,000 rounds per minute, with an initial velocity of up to 1,200 meters per second. The armor-piercing shells fired are enough to cause damage to the monks in the early stage of the giant stage. Don't even think about killing them with one shot, but if they are hit by 5 or 6 rounds in a row, they will definitely be half disabled if they don't die. After all, the 30mm tungsten core armor-piercing shells are not a joke. The target of the missile is the group, and the target of the armor-piercing shell is to break the defense of a single unit. A standard Land Shield combat module is generally composed of a command vehicle plus 3-6 Land Shield 2000s, and the total ammunition output can reach more than 20,000 rounds per minute. Under this intensity of firepower coverage, unless the Giant Eagle is an XLC difficulty player who copied the Eastern Eternal Night in 20 years. Otherwise, if you can avoid this intensity of firepower cleaning, don't be a monster, just go and compete with the big eyeballs in the law of cause and effect. After solving the Air Force, the remaining combat plans will be customized in the near future. After reconnaissance and mobilization, the last link is research and development. The so-called research and development, as the word implies, it refers to a series of scientific research projects with Psychic Shield as the core. Considering that it is not realistic to achieve more advanced technological breakthroughs in a short period of time, the requirements made by the core layer to the research and development team are very simple. Use all resources to mass-produce first-order psychic shields. If you have the ability, it is best to mass-produce some other first-order talismans. After all, it is necessary to capture the two-headed bull alive, no matter what kind of combat plan the core layer finally decides. Close combat is a certain and necessary process. The above are the matters assigned by the headquarters. Lin Li put the documents on the table and said to everyone, now that the camp has entered a state of combat readiness, the priority of some transported materials will be adjusted in the future. The resources needed in Qi County City cannot be reduced. Therefore, we must be self-sufficient in electricity and water resources as soon as possible. Captain Yan, an engineering company will be sent from the East Ward tomorrow. At that time, they will assist you in building water and power facilities as soon as possible. Now is a special situation. The above requires you to postpone the construction of walls except for the necessary buildings, and use the remaining manpower to build open-air facilities on the spot and put them into operation as soon as possible. Yan Xiaoxin stood at attention solemnly. Understood. After explaining these tasks, Lin Li thought of something and asked Shi Zheng, Director Shi, how is Wu Fan doing recently? The headquarters is still concerned about Wu Fan, and when conveying the instructions, they specifically asked me about his recent situation. Shi Zheng's face straightened. I was just about to tell you. Wu Fan has performed very well recently, and he has also shown a unique talent. Lin Li immediately became interested. What talent? Wang Qiang and Zhou Yuangxin whispered to each other. Could it be that he has awakened and is rapping while discharging electricity? After one song, the phone is fully charged. Shi Zheng picked up the ballpoint pen cap on the ground and put it back on Lin Li's desk. He smiled kindly and uttered 4 words. Language talent, Lin Li. It means exactly what it says. Shi Zheng explained. After Wu Fan and his team arrived at the Great Mo Realm, we arranged a special language learning for them. You should have an impression of this. The purpose is to allow Comrade Zheng Yuan and his team to start work at the grassroots level as soon as possible. Now 8 days have passed. Comrade Zheng Yuan and his team have only mastered about 180 Great Mo characters, but Comrade Wu Fan can already fluently use the Great Mo language to tell Wei Niandong the story of his becoming the king in the S6 season. A few days ago, when a batch of materials was handed over, Wei Niandong was away because of something. At that time, our simultaneous translation machine had not been made yet, and it was Wu Fan who helped with the translation. Lin Li was immediately happy. Wow, this kid has this ability. Shi Zheng took out a schedule from his side and handed it to Lin Li. Currently, Wu Fan's spiritual awakening has been arranged on the schedule. This is what the base camp has decided before coming here. The question now is, after Wu Fan awakens his spirit, should we arrange for him to practice directly or? Lin Li took the form and looked at it for a few times, then shook his head. Let's wait for the practice. I suggest that this kid should practice more. It is easy to lose yourself if you rashly contact high-level power without a certain psychological quality. I have a suggestion. How about arranging him to be a team leader at the construction site? Shi Zheng hesitated for a few seconds. Is this appropriate? Lin Li glanced at the construction drawings on the wall and said, after all, the construction site is our home ground, and all problems are controllable. In addition, Wu Fan's language talent is very important to us. The biggest flaw of the simultaneous translation machine at present is that it can only translate conversations in normal contexts. It is difficult to recognize language environments such as anger and frustration. To put it bluntly, when someone says you are a bad basketball player like Kun Kun, it can translate it into your excellency is more talented than Sugong. You may even have to say thank you to them. So having Wu Fan present may play a big role in some contexts. Finally, it can allow him to have more contact with the poor people of Damo no matter what. Wu Fan has seen the prosperity of the Magic City. This kind of scene comparison should have a certain visual impact on him. I have read his information. Apart from his professional skills, there are no particularly obvious black spots. He can still be saved. Shi Zheng thought for a while and felt that it made sense, so he nodded. Okay, then I will arrange it now. While the command center was discussing Wu Fan's arrangements, the spiritual stone vein 100 miles away was officially mined. Chapter 70 Mining. 100 miles away from the valley where the camp is located, near a slightly hidden pile of rocks, dozens of impact crushers, hammer crushers, composite crushers and other crushing equipment, as well as drilling machines, ball mills, vibrating screens, sand washers, belt conveyors and other mining facilities are neatly arranged in front of a semi-raised entrance. The width of this entrance is about 7 or 8 meters away. It is inserted into the ground at an angle of 45 degrees. From the entrance to the edge of the pile of rocks, a flat and wide road has been cleared by humans. The width of this road is nearly 10 meters, which can accommodate large vehicles. And beside those equipment, hundreds of Chinese people wearing safety helmets are standing scattered at this time. These people are from the prospecting and mining departments of a large state-owned mining enterprise in East China. They are all industry elites with more than 20 years of experience. According to the original plan, this group of prospectors will depart from the Magic City airport and go to a small African country for technical assistance to explore and mine a large mineral vein. This group of personnel signed a 2-year overseas work agreement before going abroad, and their families were also prepared for long-term separation. Now that the Damo realm is in the development stage, this group of talents was naturally intercepted outside the customs. After a series of operations, they were secretly sent to the Damo realm, and another group of employees replaced them. Like Wu Fan and others, this group of personnel can have a simple contact with their families every once in a while, limited to outside the light gate, through special equipment. With such a group of mining elites joining, the exploration speed of the Lingxi ore vein has suddenly increased a lot. In addition, Wei Siming once applied anti-collapse and leakage measures to the inside of the ore body, and the characteristics of the material of Lingxi do not require ore testing and analysis. So after a few days of uninterrupted work, the mining project has finally gone through a series of links such as determining the beneficiation method, selecting the site for foundation treatment, installation and commissioning. It has come to the most critical node of the entire process, mining. The person in charge of this mining mission is Lei Wenjin, Deputy Director of the Moto Geological Research Institute, and the person in charge of the mining project is a section chief named Fei from the Qinghai National Mineral Industry Department. Deputy Director Lei, the relevant equipment has been debugged. Section Chief Fei, wearing a safety helmet at this time, spread out a cross-section of the vein and introduced to Lei Wenjin. The main tunnel of the Lingxi vein is about 200 meters underground, and there are several turns in the middle. So we use the traditional deep underground process, with vibration or draining technology as the core support, and also lay electric rake tunnels in the vein. However, since the vein contains a large number of gently inclined medium-thick ore bodies, we can only achieve semi-mechanized mining. Now the position of the hole has been set. According to your requirements, we will start digging from the 31.8-degree inclination on the left. According to our survey, there should be a lot of mother and child plants in this area. According to Wei Fan's previous introduction, after the Lingxi is formed, it will be surrounded by a very thick rock surface. This rock surface and the Lingxi are a complete body called the mother and child plant. Generally speaking, a mother plant with a diameter of about 1 foot can produce 1 to 3 standard units of spiritual stones. The specific number depends on luck, but the possibility is within this range, no more but no less. It is the kind of situation where you can get a small explosion if you are lucky, but you can only guarantee the bottom line if you are unlucky. The area designated by Chief Fei is a place where a large number of mother plants are suspected to be gathered. Lei Wenjin first checked the excavation inclination with a pen, and then said, "The inclination is between 31.6 and 31.9, no problem. The density of the single hydraulic support should be strengthened a little bit, in case the top plate pressure increases and leakage occurs, the effect will be bad." Chief Fei nodded, "I will go and check it again." 10 minutes later, Chief Fei returned, "Deputy Director Lei, all equipment and indexes have been debugged, please ask the command center." Lei Wenjin heard this, and his dark face suddenly looked unusually solemn. He held the communicator tightly in his hand and took a deep breath to ensure that his tone was steady. "Command, command. This is the front station of the Shanjiang project. All our equipment has been debugged, and 132 personnel have been confirmed to be in place. Request the command to authorize mining." A moment later, Lin Li's reply came from the communicator, "Authorization granted, core console code XW45, open the mine." Deputy Director Lei, hang up the communication. Lei Wenjin looked at Section Chief Fei, "Open the mine." The voice fell. Section Chief Fei raised his right hand fiercely, flattened his palm, put 4 fingers together, and the thumb was perpendicular to the 4 fingers. This is a common preparatory gesture in the mining industry. At the same time, he used the pager to say to all the team leaders, "All departments, start working." Rumble, the hydraulic drilling machine roared and began to dig at a precisely calculated inclination in a 3-tailed multiple connection. At the same time, All departments were also making coordinated reports. The density of the advanced support of the 2 lanes is normal, and there is no need to return the pillars one by one. The drill bit is not bent, and the rock drill is not blocked. The safety of the working face is good, and it is about to touch the soft rock layer. Apply to increase the number of powder discharges. After a while, the captain of the drilling team sent a message. The resonance displacement of the rock wall is very small, and the moisture content in the sands in the drilling area is extremely low. Should personnel be sent to the mine to dig out the mother and child plants? Please instruct. Lei Wenjin clenched his hands and solemnly issued the last order. Send personnel to the mine. Please be careful. 6 minutes later, 3 experienced mining elites were fully equipped and entered the mine with an officer from Wei Mansion. Watching the 4 people disappear at the mine entrance, Lei Wenjin, Chief Fei and the leaders of the camp 100 miles away, all looked solemnly waiting for the final result. 22 minutes later, the 4 people rose from the mine entrance. Unlike when they entered the pit. When they left the mine, each of them held a stone ball with a diameter of about 30 centimeters tightly in front of their chests. The moment he saw the stone ball, Lei Wenjin's heart suddenly twitched. He quickly came to the entrance of the mine and asked several miners, "Masters, could this be?" One of the oldest masters wiped the dust off his face and handed the stone ball to Lei Wenjin. Yes, after confirmation by this brother from the Wei Mansion, this is the mother and child plant. Lei Wenjin took the stone ball and slowly exhaled a long breath. He held the stone ball against his chest with one hand, and used the other hand to help a miner with leverage, and asked, "Master, how much spiritual stone reserves are there in the area we have selected?" The miner jumped out of the mine with Lei Wenjin's strength and patted the dust on his thigh with his hand. Then he answered, "Vice President Lei, the coal mine in the area we selected, sorry to say I'm used to it, there are a lot of spiritual stones. A large number of mother and child trees can be seen with the naked eye, and the sight line and passage width are very suitable. More importantly, the inclination angle selected by the operating table is very accurate, just passing through 2 soft rock layers without destroying any of the mother and child tree walls. That's great. The inclination angle is exactly the range we calculated." Lei Wenjin couldn't help showing a sense of pride on his face, because he calculated the excavation inclination angle by himself. Then he randomly selected one of the 4 mother and child trees and walked aside with Chief Fei. Snap! He put the mother and child plants on the table, took out a knife provided by the Wei Mansion from his pocket, and said to Chief Fei, "Chief Fei, the command center has explained before. If ore is found, we have to randomly select a mother and child plant to open and inspect it. Who do you think will make this cut?" Chief Fei did not answer directly, but pointed to his face. "What's my name?" Lei Wenjin was confused. "Chief Fei, I mean your full name, Fei Chu? Then why are you asking? Do you believe that I have never won a prize for opening beer caps?" Lei Wenjin, Fei Chu then waved his hand. His eyebrows drooped instantly. "I play card in League of Legends, and I get 1 gold coin every day for finishing off the enemy. I've never strengthened a weapon above 12 in DNF, and I've never seen a 2-faced Buddha in on Meiji. Last year, the Ministry of Industry conducted a nationwide random inspection of scientific and technical personnel. I was the only one who was missed out of 120,000 people. As a result, I didn't even get my year-end bonus. Just after I bought a house, a debtor committed suicide in the community. The house price fell by 1/3 on the same day. The next day after I bought a car, the new energy policy reduced the price by 10%. The most outrageous thing is that even the authors of the books I read and followed are all monthly update beasts. Vice President Lei, I heard that the mother and child plant produces 1 to 3 spirit stones? Do you believe me? I will give you a 0. Lei Wenjin was sweating coldly when he heard this. "Then I'll do it." Then he calmed down, picked up the knife provided by the Wei Mansion, and carefully cut a mother and child plant. The surface of the mother and child plant is made of rock, but it is extremely sticky and soft when cut. And the hardness of the stone cannot be felt at all. After a while, the rock was split in 2. 3 spirit stones were quietly lying in the center, emitting a green light. Lei Wenjin carefully picked up a spirit stone and held it in his palm like a baby. In fact, in a sense, babies and spirit stones are somewhat similar. The baby represents the extension of life. The spirit stone represents the future of the great nation. Lei Wenjin took a deep breath, turned his head, and said loudly through the intercom, "All departments, work at full capacity." Chapter 71, The Caravan and the People Who Travel Far Away. There are currently nearly 20,000 mother and child plants in the rich mineral areas explored. The 24-hour mining volume can reach about 1,000 pieces. In the command room, Lin Li looked at the mining report sent back by Lei Wenjin and quickly estimated in his mind, if we calculate that one mother-child tree can produce 2 spiritual stones, then that means 2,000 spiritual stones per day, right? The total price of 2,000 is about 12 million. According to the agreement signed between us and the Wei Mansion, the materials will be divided into 70% and 30% of each other. That means we earn less than 9 million Chinese yuan per day on average. It's still too little for the basic base of the camp. Shi Zhehong, who was standing aside, showed a trace of helplessness on his face and said, "There is no way. At present, our professional miners are limited in manpower. Only 2 groups of people are allowed to work at the same time in the mine, and it takes an average of 10 minutes to mine 1 round. And large equipment over 30 meters long can only be transported in 1 or 2 per day due to the traffic volume of the light gate. In addition, every time we mine, we have to worry about the damage of the mother-child tree, so we can only use semi-mechanized mining very conservatively, so the mining efficiency can only be maintained at this level for the time being." Lin Li heard this and sighed regretfully in his heart. Just as Shi Zhehong said, it is indeed very troublesome to transport large mining facilities. Take the super-large hydraulic excavator of Sany Heavy Industry Group as an example. This hydraulic excavator weighs more than 500 tons and is more than 15 meters high. Together with a matching mining truck, the total weight of a standard mining module exceeds 2,400 tons. It is easy to coordinate this kind of equipment. After all, the current project of Damoji is the top priority, and the competent department can coordinate it in minutes with a transfer order. However, the transportation of these equipment is a very troublesome problem. Although there is a well-known Baosteel group in Modu, Baosteel is mainly engaged in steel smelting. Although there are mining facilities due to the steady style of the rabbits, there are actually not many. At present, these domestic equipment are all in the central or western parts. After all, the resource structure of our country is very typical of more in the west and less in the east, rich in the north and poor in the south. These equipment need to be transferred from external areas to arrive outside the light gate, and for confidentiality reasons, they cannot be stuffed all at once. A module of more than 2,000 tons must be divided into dozens of containers at least. In addition, in order to capture the double-headed bull that will be launched soon, the operation of various materials in the local area has reached a limit. For example, war materials, daily necessities, various resources in the laboratory, etc. So although the spiritual stone veins are important, other projects cannot be easily compromised. For example, the large amount of jade and servers needed for the development of talismans are all super first-line task resources, and the weapon calibration at the military base is the top priority, and the amount consumed every day is not small. In addition, once the supply of various materials in Qi County City is reduced, the people's hearts and reputation that have been hard to gather will be affected. In summary, the Magic City needs to consider the overall situation, so it is good to free up 1/5 of the transportation volume every day for the veins. After thinking about this, Lin Li put down the mining report, picked up the teacup and drank a sip of water. Then he asked Shi Zhehong, "Director Shi, what brought you back today? Is there something wrong with the second recruitment?" Although the distance between the camp and Qi County City is only 18 kilometers. But Shi Zhehong is the person in charge of the current Qi County City station. Many things need to be handled by him before the next step can be carried out. His job restricts him from moving around freely. In other words, it must be a big deal to make him rush back to the camp. In addition, the most critical thing in the past 2 days is the start of the second recruitment, so Lin Li couldn't help but think of some not-so-good possibilities. However, Shi Zhehong's reply made him feel relieved. Shi Zhehong shook his head and said, "Captain Lin, the second recruitment is going very smoothly. This time we have recruited more than 1,400 workers, basically covering more than 80% of the healthy male refugees in the city, and even some civilians with unstable lives. Fortunately, the 6 dormitory buildings we built before have a large enough capacity, otherwise many refugees would have to sleep in tents for at least 1 or 2 nights. Hearing that the number of people recruited for the second time had skyrocketed, Lin Li's face suddenly showed a hint of joy. "It's good, it's good. If the dormitories are tight, we will build more. When the refugees in the city recover one after another, the number of recruits in the next batch will definitely be more." Quantity has never been a problem. We can digest as many as come. I will go to Yi Jinian, Chief Engineer Yi, to hand over this matter. Shi Zhehong nodded and continued, Captain Lin, the main reason I came back to the camp this time is that I need to report something to you in person. The Wei Mansion plans to send a caravan to a large city for a large-scale commercial trade. Lin Li was surprised and said, commercial trade? Shi Zhehong handed him a material statistics table and explained, yes, commercial trade. We annihilated most of the beast tide in the previous siege, but considering that Qi County City also killed a lot of monsters during the defense of the city, and paid a high price in casualties. So when we cleaned up the battlefield, we distributed about 35% of the monster corpses to them. Of course, since many monsters have long become incomplete under the firepower cleaning, the so-called 35% of the monster corpses actually accounted for less than 20% of the number of beasts. The Wei Mansion processed these corpses, separated a large amount of valuable materials, and prepared to send a caravan to travel far for trading. This is also a common way of dealing with a beast tide after defending the city. Many families get the spiritual stones they need for cultivation in this way. Then Shi Zhehong paused and continued, this time, the Wei family caravan is going to a big city more than 2,000 miles away from us. It is said that there are cultivators at the 7th level of the Jianden realm in the city, and the population of the city is as high as more than 2 million. According to the agreement signed between Qi County and us, the spiritual stones of both parties are divided into dividends at the end of the year, so the Wei Mansion did not ask us to advance the spiritual stones. This time they are going to simply barter, using the materials of the monsters to exchange for some talismans, elixirs, array formations and other supplies to make up for the losses during the defense of the city. Lin Li heard what he meant. Director Shi, it seems that you mean that we should also send a group of people to buy some things. Shi Zhehong nodded affirmatively, and it can be seen that his intention is very clear, and said, the date of the Wei Mansion caravan's departure this time is set in 10 days. By then, the number of mother and child plants we have mined can reach about 10,000. If we work harder in these 10 days, we can mine 12,000 to 13,000. Calculated based on the average amount of 2 spiritual stones per mother and child plant. This is about 25,000 spirit stones, enough for us to buy some good things. For example, as far as I know, there is a special sword key talisman in the Damo realm, which can be used with only 1 level of key training, and its power is enough to hurt a cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building. Of course, the price is very, very expensive. Lin Li listened quietly, his face thoughtful. As Shi Zhehong said, this caravan's long journey is a very good opportunity. First, you can see other cities in this world, broaden your horizons, and collect some information about the Great Mo realm. After all, Qi County is still too small. Second, you can buy some powerful talismans, pills, arrays and other items. According to the plan, the camp will launch a battle against Xiaolianzi Mountain in a while. If there is a batch of array talismans to assist by then, the battle will be much easier to fight. Even though some items are temporarily unavailable to their own soldiers due to the limitation of the realm. But the rabbits can completely ask the monks of the Wei Mansion to come out. For example, a talisman that needs to be stimulated by the high-level foundation building and can hurt the Danji realm. Isn't the old Master Wei happy to help? You know, the little soldier on duty at the door of Xingfu supermarket is called Wei Xian. Ahem. Overall, the idea proposed by Shi Zhehong is of course very attractive. But it is very difficult to implement. The first thing to consider is the problem of signal transmission. The city that the Wei Mansion caravan is going to is more than 2,000 miles away from Qi County, which is about 1,000 kilometers. This distance is really nothing on Earth. The distance from the Magic City to the Imperial City is only 1,200 kilometers. But the problem is that this is the Great Mo realm. The Wei Mansion may have its own means of travel, and it is possible that they will use the flying boat in the mansion. But in terms of communication, the Great Mo realm does not have any ground signal base stations or ground relay equipment. The inability to communicate is absolutely unacceptable to the rabbits. It is said that the new book period is 4,000 words per day. In the past few days, my updates have not been less than 5,000. Although 1,000 words may not seem like a lot, I have to work overtime for almost 2 hours. The current average subscription is 2,700, and it has increased by 400 in 2 days. The readers are still very powerful. It is estimated that there should be a chance to get a boutique before the end of the year. So please ask for monthly tickets, everyone. Double monthly tickets will be available in the next few days. The new book list is still very tight. Chapter 72, The Caravan and the People Who Travel Far Away. Due to the unknown interstellar orbit of the Great Mo Realm, satellite communication is temporarily unavailable. In this case, there are only two ways to achieve signal transmission in a short period of time: setting up a relay point or a radio beacon. As we all know, when using microwaves and ultra-short waves to transmit signals, when the distance between two terminal stations exceeds the line of sight, the signal will begin to decay rapidly, and the signal quality cannot be guaranteed. The relay station refers to a station set up between two terminal stations. The relay station amplifies, shapes and converts the signal sent by the previous station before forwarding it to the next station. In this way, the communication distance can be extended and the communication quality can be maintained at a good level. At the same time, considering that the caravan will set off in 10 days, the ground relay station is basically out of the question. Therefore, there are only two possible relay methods at present: drones or high-altitude balloons. Of these two methods, the least practical is drone relay. The altitude of drone relay is 300-2,000 meters, and the range of use is within 200 kilometers. For example, the camp used drone relay to explore Xiaolianzi Mountain. But when the distance reaches more than 1,000 kilometers, drone relay becomes somewhat unstable. After all, there are quite a few people in the Great Mo Realm who can fly. The height of the foundation establishment stage can be close to 300 meters, and the giant in stage can reach 1 to 5,000 meters according to the realm. These cultivators are not interstellar players, and they all have good eyesight. Who knows if they will send a flying sword to chop the drone when they see it? The rabbits are not worried about the drone being exposed. After all, technology and cultivation are two completely different civilizations. According to the cognition of the natives of the Great Mo Realm, when they see a mechanical device like a drone, at most they will think it is a magic weapon made by a family. But once a drone is captured or chopped, its relay function will completely disappear, and the signal transmission will be completely ineffective. The same is true for balloon relay. The rabbit's technology in balloon relay is not very advanced. The number of relay balloons required for 1,000 kilometers is at least 11. The bear next door can do 7 per 1,000 kilometers, which is also one of the few communication technologies next door that is better than ours. So after excluding the two relay methods, the only thing left is the radio beacon. Radio beacon communication is actually a very complicated thing, and its propagation characteristics are determined by the frequency characteristics used. In short, long waves are thousands of kilometers long, medium waves are hundreds of kilometers long, short waves can be transmitted to the whole world through ionosphere reflection, and ultra-short waves and above can only be transmitted in a straight line. Sometimes, because a mountain is 1 Pandora standard unit higher, the communication signal may be greatly affected. Considering the distance of the city, there are only two bands that are feasible at present: long waves or short waves. Short waves need to be reflected by the ionosphere, but unfortunately, the camp still knows very little about the characteristics of the ionosphere in the Great Mo Realm. After all, there are 3 suns in the sky. And it is hard to say what high-energy particles are like in an unknown world. The starry sky is really not a field that can be solved at once. So when all the above possibilities are excluded, there is only one possibility left: using long waves for radio transmission. It is still well known. Long waves refer to radio waves with a frequency below 300 kHz and a wavelength of 1,000 meters to 1,000 meters. The transmission capability of the long wave band is unquestionable, but there is a very troublesome problem in setting it up. That is, it requires a very huge long wave antenna array, which is hundreds of times larger than 10-year roots. Let's change one this time, and 10 second-generation Fishman. This antenna array is so huge that even the rabbits are reluctant to build it wantonly. In our country, long waves are generally used in the ocean-going industry. Well, the ocean-going industry, big black fish, small flat tops, etc. We don't know. 10 days. I don't know if it's enough. Lin Li pressed his temple with his thumb joint. This is another very important event after the two-headed bull. Considering that the caravan's travel may involve the next battle, and the antenna array is not something that the camp can decide, Lin Li hurriedly wrote a report and Lin Ziming personally sent it back to the Magic City. 3 hours later, Lin Ziming came back with a new pinhole, no, a new instruction. The core layer will secretly transport a set of 40-meter hyperbolic reflector antenna arrays from Jiao City. Since there is no radio interference in the Great Mo realm, the maximum communication distance of this array can reach 3,600 kilometers. This antenna array covers an area of about 2,560 square meters, and it is entirely possible to build and debug it within 10 days. I spent an hour checking all the public array information in the country. The Jiao 01 has just been retired for a year and has been sealed and stored. There is no disassembly and discovery. After it was manufactured, it took 400 people 17 days to assemble it, and it took 33 hours to debug it after assembly. It should be reasonable for the Great Mo realm to double the manpower to shorten it to 10 days. At the same time, the core layer also asked the camp to list the candidates for this trip as soon as possible. After handing over the instructions, Lin Ziming stayed directly at the command center and discussed the selection issue with many leaders who were still in the camp. My opinion is to send a few more people to accompany the Wei Mansion's caravan. Deputy Captain Zhang Guchen spoke first. He has been busy assisting military experts in fine-tuning the projectiles recently. Our trade volume this time is not small, and the number of spirit stones is large. Is it possible to send only a few people? Well, although those who come to the Great Mo realm are determined warriors, I don't think it is necessary to deliberately create an environment to challenge people's desires. Second, Moning raised his hand to express his agreement. I suggest that the Ministry of Commerce take the lead in the trade personnel, 4 to 5, and then we will arrange a few persons in charge in our camp to follow, and it would be best to arrange an elite team to accompany them all the way. Hua Jun was also pulled to the meeting because of the possibility that Beijing might buy talismans. He only heard him ask aloud, "Everyone, I have 2 questions. First, if the trade volume is large, how are those materials carried all the way? There are more than 2,000 monsters. Various parts, conservatively speaking, there must be 5 tons, right? The second question is, if we want to trade, why do we have to follow the people of the Wei Mansion instead of arranging a group of people to trade separately?" Lin Li and Zhang Guchen looked at each other, and then he slowly said, "Academician Hui, the first question involves the secret of the Wei Mansion. Since everyone is here today and the confidentiality level is sufficient, I will tell you directly. The Wei Mansion has a space storage bag that can store about 500 cubic meters of materials, similar to the specifications of 10x10x6, which is also a family heirloom left by Comrade Wei Siming." Looking at the surprised expressions of everyone present, Lin Li pointed at Zhang Guchen and said, "Old Zhang and his team have studied this space bag, but unfortunately they have not analyzed any principles. Note, any. So we have never mentioned this matter publicly. In addition, the nature of the space bag is very important to the Wei Mansion, so we returned it to the Wei Mansion after a rough study. The reason why the core layer agreed to our trade plan during the period when the transfer volume was almost full this time was, firstly, to prepare for the battle, and secondly, to be able to buy a space bag of our own." After Lin Li finished speaking, Zhang Guchen on the side sighed leisurely. Space technology, space technology. For a moment, the headquarters fell into silence. Space technology. These 4 words do not need any explanation. Any earthling with normal IQ can understand their meaning. After a while, Lin Li continued, "As for the second question raised by Academician Hui, I also discussed it with Director Shi while waiting for the response from the base camp. He told me that caravans like the Wei Mansion generally have their own unique resources and connections, and can contact many merchants that we cannot contact. This is the qualification we currently lack. In addition, the person with the highest cultivation level in our camp is Comrade Xiao Yi, who is at the peak of the first level of key training. Think about it. What will happen if a group of mortals take tens of thousands of spirit stones to buy things? Even if we have guns to temporarily make up for the shortcomings of cultivation, those practitioners don't know these concepts. Going to that city is easy, but once we show our wealth, do we have to fight all the way back?" Hua Jun was silent for a while, and slowly nodded. "Then I have no problem." Then Lin Li looked around and said, "In this case, let's decide on the candidates. I propose. The trade representatives of the trade delegation are composed of several officials of the Ministry of Commerce stationed in Chixin City. The accompanying team is led by Colonel Lin Ziming, and the Chief of Staff of the Armored Regiment, Comrade Gu Junming, leads an armed team. If you have no objection, let's start voting. The last few days of double monthly tickets, please vote. The current new book monthly ticket list is still 7th. Pi is a book by an old author. I personally think that the only dragon fanfiction that can be read on Kidian is I don't have money to go to college, so I can only go to slay dragons. Chapter 73. After many reconsiderations, the camp finally confirmed a list of personnel traveling with the Wei family caravan. This trade group is codenamed Taozu, and there are a total of 40 members in the group. Among them, there are 4 trade representatives, all from the Huaxia Ministry of Commerce's office in Qi County. If you want to be a supporting role, please leave a message here with your name, gender and age. There are 6 accompanying miscellaneous personnel, namely Lin Ziming, Ma Ning, Dai Chaohong, Wang Qiang and 2 assistants. The accompanying escort team of 30 people is led by Gu Junming, the chief of staff of the Magic City Armored Garrison Regiment. The soldiers are selected from the Magic City Special Warfare Brigade, which has the strongest individual combat power in the camp. All members of the team are equipped with a standard QTS-11 individual combat system, and the relevant ammunition will be carried with the team in the form of distributed materials. Yes, that's right, QTS-11, so the accompanying soldiers are all right-handed. According to the news from the Wei Mansion, the route that the caravan will take is very safe and will not pass through some gathering places of monsters. So the size of security personnel should be sufficient. When the camp decides on the candidates for the trip, Shi Zhehan quickly returned to Qi County City and handed the relevant list to Wei Qiangshen, the head of the Wei Mansion caravan. Wei Qiangshen was a little old man in his 50s, with a cultivation level of the 7th level of key training, a head full of silver hair, and looked very shrewd. Oh, by the way, it was he who controlled the coffin weapon during the siege of the monster. In addition to being the head of the Wei Mansion caravan, Wei Qiangshen also had another extremely important identity in Qi County City, the head of the 3rd branch of the Wei family. At the beginning, Wei Siming, the ancestor of the Wei family, married another female time traveler whose name the author can no longer remember but does not want to read the previous text, and gave birth to a total of 5 children. Now 100 years have passed. The descendants of the 5 children have gradually multiplied into the current 5 branches of the Wei Mansion, which can be regarded as branches and leaves. Wei Fan and the old patriarch Wei naturally represent the main branch. Among the other 4 branches, except for the sparse population of the 4th branch, the remaining 3 branches are not considered to be united. Since the 5th branch is the last, it will follow the main vein in everything. Wei Niandong and his sister Wei Zixi are from this branch, so they have a good relationship with Wei Fan. As for the remaining 2nd and 3rd branches, they all have their own thoughts. The 2nd branch is responsible for the refining of talismans in the clan. Wei Yuan, who was so angry that he drew a small circle before Bai Huajun, is the younger brother of the current Vein Master of the 2nd branch. He is also the only 1st-level talisman master in the Wei Mansion, and his status is not ordinary. The 3rd branch is the branch where Wei Qiangshen is. The Vein Master of the 3rd branch is Wei Qiangshen, and the highest combat power of the branch is the 3rd old man who appeared in the siege, Wei Shudu, who is in the 3rd level of the foundation building period. Wei Qiangshen is also a talent. He has shown an extremely amazing talent for business since he was a child. Since he took over the economic industry of the Wei Mansion, through a series of operations such as reducing commercial taxes and shortening the lease period, the trade industry in Qi County City has gradually been revitalized, allowing many civilians in the city to have a job to make a living. At the same time, in the more critical trade of high-level resources, Wei Qiangshen almost single-handedly broke through the trade barriers with Zhejiang City, which is 2,000 miles away. He opened up a stable and highly profitable business route for the Wei Mansion, bringing in huge profits. After all, there is a very basic common sense in trade, that is, in the stage when freight is not well developed, the farther things are transported, the higher the value. For example, the spiritual medicine called 7-colored vine, which the Wei Mansion picked and planted based on the characteristics of the region, is very popular in Zhejiang City and its covered areas. The Wei Mansion took this opportunity to sign a long-term supply agreement with Zhejiang, the largest merchants in Zhejiang City, and also got a preferential purchase price that only families in the Jiandan realm can enjoy. To put it bluntly, if it weren't for Wei Qiangshen's hard work over the years, Chixin City might not even have enough spiritual stones to turn on the lighting during the night. If it weren't for the fact that Wei Fan and his lineage had a 1st-level alchemist, and there was also a 5th-level foundation building cultivator like the old patriarch Wei, it would be hard to say who would have the position of patriarch. If Wei Fan and Wei Qiangshen were compared one by one, Wei Qiangsheng's reputation would even be higher. So in this case, it is impossible to say that Wei Qiangsheng did not have some ideas. However, due to the threat of the beast tide, this idea only existed in a budding state before. Both the second and third houses were very clear about the principle of unity against the outside world. If the internal contradictions were really so big that they could not be reconciled, Wei Qiangsheng would not have chosen to live and die with Qi County City. But now with the appearance of the rabbits, especially after seeing the many mechanical powers of the local area, the bugs in Wei Qiangsheng's heart gradually developed a little. In the station in Qi County City, Shi Zhehong handed the list of people accompanying the group to Wei Qiangshen, and said with the help of the translator, "Brother Qiangshen, this is the list of people accompanying the group that we have compiled. There are a total of 40 people. Can you take a look at it?" Wei Qiangsheng took the list and stuffed it into his arms without even looking at it. "The personnel you provided are naturally no problem, and there is no need to check. The Wei Mansion's caravan has as many as 120 people accompanying it, including about a dozen monks. There is no problem in inserting 40 more people." Shi Zhehong was about to nod when he suddenly noticed that Wei Qiangsheng did not use the translator to communicate with him. He widened his eyes. "Hey, Brother Qiangshen, I haven't seen you for a few days. How come your Chinese is fluent?" Wei Qiangsheng laughed, with a hint of pride on his face. "Recently I have been practicing Chinese. After all, it is the language of our ancestors. A cultivator at the 7th level of key training can actually learn a language quite quickly. It was not me who informed you about the trade group this morning, otherwise you would have discovered my improvement in Chinese a few hours earlier." After he finished speaking, he hesitated for a few seconds and continued, "Director Shi, can I tell you something?" Shi Zhehong thought that the other party wanted to talk about the issues of accompanying personnel, such as the precautions that both parties should pay attention to when traveling together, so he said, "Just say whatever you want, I'm listening." Wei Qiangdong looked around, then turned his body and quietly moved closer to him. At the same time, he whispered, "Director Shi, if I remember correctly, when Mr. Wang signed the agreement, he opened accounts for our 4 branches, right?" Shi Zhehong's smile remained unchanged, but he quickly became serious in his heart. "Yes, a priority payment of 300,000 was deposited into each account at the beginning, but currently these 4 funds have not been moved." Wei Qiangdong took a deep breath, and said in a deep voice without keeping the secret, "Director Shi, can our third room conduct some transactions with the Chinese side through this account alone? For example, better clothes, higher quality food, local teaching materials and even weapons? At present, our third room is working hard to learn Chinese. I remember hearing you mention before that simultaneous interpretation machines are not applicable in some contexts, but our manpower does not have this problem. If you allow, we can arrange a group of younger generations to go to the construction site to assist you in your work." Then he paused, as if he had made up his mind. "In addition, during this trade process, I can introduce some precious personal relationships to you, not those channels that the Wei Mansion has publicly controlled. Let me put it this way. If there are enough spirit stones, the space storage bag can be guaranteed to be purchased." Shi Zhehong's face gradually became serious. As a person in the system who is responsible for the mobilization of materials, he is very clear about the weight of the 7 words precious personal relationships in the social structure of the Great Mo realm. Not to mention that the person who said these 7 words is a cultivator who has controlled the purse of a cultivation family for decades. Shi Zhehong looked at Wei Qiangsheng seriously and asked solemnly, "Master Wei, you are willing to pay so much? In addition to various materials, you must have other demands, right?" Since it has been open and honest, Wei Qiangsheng looked back at him without flinching. The quotations passed down by the ancestor Siming once recorded some local information. "So, I want 5 enlistment quotas, and the qualifications for 2 children under the age of 6 to go to the local school." Chapter 74, Light Gate and Refugee Absorption Plan. What? Did Wei Qiangsheng really say that? Joining the army and sending children to school? In the office in Magic City, Qin Zhendong showed a rare look of surprise. He looked at Cheng Qixiang, the director of the general office in front of him, and said, 5 enlistment quotas are easy to say. After all, our team is in the Great Mo realm. It is very simple to give him a few quotas if he passes the physical examination, but it is more troublesome to send 2 children to school in the mainland. Chang Qi nodded with a worried look on his face and said, "Yes, after all, The Great Mo Realm and the Earth are two completely different worlds. It is a bit too risky to accept people from the Great Mo Realm, especially in terms of physical rules. I have asked the editor, but I still can't write about microorganisms, disease D. It will be banned as soon as I write about it. Yesterday, another book that wrote about this was banned. I guess this pit will be like the half-millionth book, and it will not be filled until the book is finished, but Wei Qiangsheng's intention is very strong, isn't it? Qin Zhendong asked back, then pondered for a full half-minute, and asked, by the way, Comrade Qixiang, has there been any progress in the research on the light gate recently? Chang Qixiang shook his head with a little regret. There is still no substantial breakthrough in the light gate, but there are new discoveries in the laws of physics. Recently, we have been able to capture the spectrum it emits. After testing by the Institute of Light and the Monster Academy, the energy of photon transitions in the spectrum is very stable, which means that the light gate has gradually become concrete. Some of the particles are suspected to have the characteristics of the sun's high-energy particle flow, that is, protons with energy greater than 5 × 108 electron volts, and a small number of neutrons have also been captured. This is very consistent with the characteristics of solar cosmic rays. Therefore, several top physics experts, including Mr. Yang, believe that the energy of the light gate may be related to the sun. But it is strange that under normal circumstances, solar particles can only enter the atmosphere from the South Pole and the North Pole of the Earth. It is unknown why the light gate in the Magic City can capture them in large quantities. However, judging from the current research results, there should be no possibility that the light gate will disappear in a short period of time, although Qin Zhendong, like most readers, did not understand what Chang Qixiang said at all. But after hearing the last sentence, he was somewhat relieved, and nodded slightly. No matter how the particles enter the Earth, it's okay as long as the light gate does not disappear. After all, our investment there is not small. After the discovery of the Great Mo Realm, there was actually a worry that was repeatedly mentioned in the core layer. Will the light gates suddenly disappear? After all, the rabbits have invested too much manpower and material resources in the Great Mo Realm. Material resources are actually not a big deal. With the current family background of the rabbits, it may be painful to lose some material resources, but it will never be a serious injury. But manpower is a big problem. Now there are more than 10 top academicians in the Great Mo Realm, and the number of high-tech personnel has exceeded 1,000. And is gradually increasing every day with a base of hundreds. In addition, including a large number of troops and workers stationed in the Great Mo Realm, the total number of personnel in the Great Mo Realm has exceeded 7,000. Once the light curtain disappears suddenly, the loss of these personnel will be a vacancy that is difficult to fill. Not to mention the number of families radiated after this number. After all, the Great Mo Realm has appeared in the not very scientific concept of cultivation. So the core layer is most worried about. The light gate will disappear suddenly and silently like the money in the wallet one day. This is not scientific, but very true. Now that it has been confirmed that the nature of the light gate's operation is in line with science, or some kind of physical law, even if the rabbits cannot crack its essence in a short period of time, at least there is no need to worry about it unscientifically ascending. After learning that the stability of the light gate is very reliable in the short term, Qin Zhendong's face is uncertain, as if he is thinking about something. After a while, he finally made up his mind. In that case, reply to Wei Qiangsheng and allow him to choose 2 children to send to Earth for study, and agree to the request for enlistment. But in the same way, the trading channels he provides must be of sufficient weight, and it is best to provide a price list of some precious items. Comrade Qixiang, please contact the troops again. I remember that we have some small things in stock, the kind with the wooden handles. A few boxes of good quality. Let the trade group take them to Zhejiang City to sell as some kind of detonating talismans, and earn as much as possible from spiritual stones. Chang Qixiang wrote down Qin Zhendong's instructions one by one. Okay, I'll do it now. At the same time, in the Damo realm, on the construction side of the life experiment base, a group of newly arrived migrant workers were queuing up in a long queue and registering for employment in an orderly manner. At this moment, Zhao Qianju, the old predecessor who had entered the palace for the second time, gathered a lot of people around him. 2 days ago, when their family returned to Lidwelling with a lot of things, it really caused quite a stir. Especially when the fatty pork is stewed, the chicken is cut into strips and stir-fried with green peppers, and the beef is stewed with potatoes. At the same time, the stinky mustard stems are opened, so forget it. In short, The fragrance is a bit outrageous, but the taste is spread 100 meters. In the past 48 hours, similar situations have been staged almost simultaneously in all parts of the city. Having enough food and clothing is one of the eternal basic demands of mankind. Seeing that those who were similar to themselves a few days ago have changed their muskets to cannons in a few days, how can other refugees not feel jealous? So it is no surprise that the second recruitment of the rabbits was a big hit. The Chinese people will give us clothes, shoes and gloves later, and there is also something called a helmet, which is called labor protection. In the team, Zhao Qianzhu is talking to the people around him. Because the things the rabbits gave were of high quality. Therefore, he was particularly careful this time, and put on a ragged piece of clothes again to prepare for another set of labor insurance. Everyone remember one thing. Don't call those Chinese people Junai or grandfather, either call them military brothers or comrades. You can go to them if you encounter any problems, and they will guarantee to solve them for you. The comrade who distributes the labor insurance will give everyone a few cards later, and everyone must keep them well. That thing is called a water ticket. It is said that it is because of the shortage of water on the construction site, so it is called water control. Each ticket can be used for a 20-minute bath, and several tickets will be issued at a time. The refugees around listen carefully. One of the young boys asked, "Uncle Zhao, where's the place where we eat?" Zhao Qianzhu smiled and touched the little boy's head, pointing to several tents in the distance and said, "That kind of place is the canteen, but our group of people has increased several times compared to the first group. I estimate that a few more canteens may be built. Just listen to the foreman's arrangements at that time, and he will take you to get food." While Zhao Qianzhu and others were chatting in line, Lin Lizhang and Yi Jianayan were looking at this place from afar. The refugee who was touching the child's head was Zhao Qianzhu. Lin Li put down the telescope and said to Yi Jianayan, "He is quite smart. He knew that we would reissue work clothes, so he specially wore ragged clothes and straw sandals to come here." Yi Jianayan showed a trace of heaviness on his face. After all, they are refugees. A set of labor protection equipment with a factory cost of more than 40 yuan may be enough for them to use for several years. After all, they are tired of poverty. Lin Li was silent after hearing this. Some memory fragments emerged in his mind, and he couldn't help but sighed. Yes, they are tired of poverty. There was silence between the two for a few seconds, as if they were recalling something in the past. Then Lin Li asked Yi Jianayan, "Chief Engineer Yi, according to the list you submitted, we will contact 14 refugees including Zhao Qianzhu. I have no objection to the others, but this Wang Timu. Well, it seems that he is a little bit intellectual." Yi Jianayan nodded slightly and replied, "Yes, according to the analysis of our medical experts. This refugee named Wang Timu should suffer from mild cerebral atrophy, accompanied by mild intellectual disability and memory impairment. But during our investigation, we found that he had been stained with a lot of gold juice during the siege. One of our medical soldiers cleaned his wound and gave him an anti-inflammatory injection, and finally saved him. He himself therefore has an extremely strong sense of identity with our troops, and is one of the first refugees to promote and believe in our soldiers. In the early days when our trust was not high, he also had a conflict with a refugee who maliciously speculated about us. I asked the expert group that cerebral atrophy is a disease of the brain nervous system, and it can be treated by nerve tissue repair methods. At present, the targeted repair therapy in the local area is relatively mature. With the help of some magical pills in the Great Mo realm, it is not a big problem to restore Wang Timu to normal. So I included him in this table and ranked him in the top 3. As a biologist, Lin Li has some understanding of medical technology and knows that what Yi Jianayan said is true. At present, China's inhibitory factor antibody production technology is very mature, and the nerve conduction function can be easily repaired artificially. The cost is not low. But for the Xinhao camp, the cost of roasting and testing a piece of meat by Wen Qiang and her team is more than this. According to the instructions of the core layer, in the next period of time, the camp must increase its influence on the refugees. The reason for this is due to sensitive reasons, needless to say. Those who have taken ideological and political education should understand it. Only when the refugees are fully influenced from the inside out, the rabbits can really step into the basic field of people's livelihood. This is the cornerstone of the rabbits' development in the Great Mo realm, and a key link that must be completed. According to the deployment of the core layer, in addition to increasing the influence on the refugees in the camp, Qi County City will also absorb refugees at the same time. According to the intelligence collected by the Wei Mansion, A large number of second-level monsters appeared in this beast tide, resulting in 5 cities within a radius of 300 miles being breached by the beast tide. The population of 2 of the cities was slaughtered. The remaining 3 cities resisted tenaciously and delayed the time limit for the beast tide to return to the passage. Although a large number of high-level monks in the city died, some people survived. One of the cities with a population of about 100,000 had a population of 40,000. After the beast tide, these cities completely lost the ability to shelter the creatures in the city because almost only 1 in 10 high-level monks survived, and everyone had to find their own way to survive. It's easy for the low-level practitioners who didn't die, no matter what. They can't even find a place to stay. Those wealthy families don't have to worry too much. It's not difficult to change a city and rely on their savings to spend the rest of their lives. But those lower-level and even middle-level civilians who lost their homes are not so lucky. Except for a few who can become servants of big families, the remaining 99% can only become refugees, struggling to survive day and night. In fact, Zhao Qianzhu had experienced such a situation. The reason for this situation has been mentioned countless times before, that is, the lack of basic productivity. When encountering some cruel cities, they may even set up checkpoints early and send monks to expel these refugees. But now with the appearance of the rabbits, Chixin City has become a different variable. They want people, a lot of people. Chapter 75 Tombstone. Qi County City is doing its best to accommodate refugees. This is a decision made by the core layer after repeated research. Qi County City covers an area of about 16 square kilometers. This scale of city is actually larger than many towns and even counties in China. As long as the city's layout is optimized and improved to a certain extent. Even if there are no high-rise buildings with more than 10 or 20 floors, it is not a problem to accommodate 80,000 people in the city. If some areas outside the city are vacated and simple partitions or tents are built on them, it is not difficult to add another 30,000 people. In the rabbit's plan. In the near future, drones and helicopters will be sent to search and explore the vicinity. The external name of the helicopter is a newly refined flying boat. After discovering a group of refugees, military trucks will be sent to collect them. The relevant search process will continue before the start of the battle, and the goal of accommodating refugees is initially set at more than 30,000 people. The current population of Qi County City is about 15,000, excluding the garrison outside the city. If it can be expanded to a total population of 50,000 to 60,000, then many things will be much easier to do next. For example, with more manpower, the labor force on the construction site can also be increased. The construction plan of the life experiment base has 3 phases. It is not a task that can be completed in a short time. It is not afraid of too many people, but too few people. In addition, the camp can also arrange these laborers to participate in the renovation of the old city, further expand the volume of Chixin City, and make plans for future development. Even the rabbits can gradually try to introduce some production lines, supplemented by the support of the camp, so that Chixin City begins to form a closed-loop ecology of production and sales. To put it bluntly, even if 500,000 refugees are recruited, some tea leaves are transported from the local area and they are responsible for peeling tea needles. It is profitable because the labor is too cheap. While the construction site and Chixin City were collecting refugees, Shi Zhehan led a young soldier to a slope outside the city. The young soldier was not tall, with 2 simple Highland reds on his cheeks and a bag in his left hand. This young soldier once knelt down with Zhao Qianzhu in the construction site cafeteria, and also stood guard at the door on the opening day of Xingfu supermarket. He was from a border defense brigade in southern Tibet. His name was Wei Xian, and he had an older brother named Wei Siming. According to the genealogy of the Wei family, Comrade Wei Siming unfortunately failed to pass the tribulation when he broke through to the Jinden realm from the great perfection of the foundation building realm, and only left behind some tribulation ashes. Shi Zhehan led the way and said to Wei Xian with a heavy face, in accordance with Comrade Wei Siming's personal instructions before he passed the tribulation, his eldest son Wei Jizhong offered his military emblem, clothes and other relics to the clan's ancestral hall. At the same time, his tribulation ashes were collected and buried on this small hillside outside the city. According to Comrade Wei Siming, this is the place where the bus first landed, so, it is also the place closest to China in his mind. After Shi Zhehan finished speaking, he pointed to an open space in front and said, "Comrade Xian, that is Comrade Wei Siming's tombstone. I'm going to go somewhere else to smoke a cigarette, Just call me when I'm done. Wei Xian thanked him. Director Shi, thank you. After watching Shi Zhen leave, Wei Xian retracted his gaze and slowly walked to the tombstone. This is a small, low grave, with a tombstone made of ordinary stone, which looks inconspicuous. The grave is surrounded by a wilderness, very quiet. Except for the occasional bird calls, there is no other sound. At this time, Wei Xian's eyes are fixed on the Chinese characters on the tombstone, Tomb of Wei Siming, a Chinese border guard. He sighed softly. He leaned down gently and brushed away a dead leaf covering the tombstone. Brother, long time no see. After greeting, he opened his mouth and hesitated. No sound came out immediately. He seemed to be thinking about what to say. After thinking for about 10 seconds, Wei Xian simply sat cross-legged on the ground, as if recalling the past. Brother, do you know that you have been away from our family for 14 years? When we heard the news of your disappearance, our whole family was stunned. I was 8 years old that year, and I couldn't believe that the brother who once took me to fry cow dung was gone just like that. Dad quit smoking after 30 years of grief, and Mom's hair turned white overnight. They sat in front of the millstone at the entrance of the village every day, staring at the path you usually took home. Waiting and waiting. But you just didn't come back. On the night of the New Year in 2009, Mom hugged Dad amid the sound of firecrackers, crying and shouting that my son was gone. Our whole family didn't sleep all night that New Year. The more lively it was outside, the colder our hearts were. Later, it took our whole family a long time to gradually accept the fact that you were gone. But who would have thought that you actually traveled through time? In the end, you became the founding ancestor of a family, and now there are hundreds of descendants. At first, when the leader with a terrifying background told me the news, I was a little bit unconvinced. Until I arrived at the Great Mo realm. How should I put it? As expected of my brother, the person I admired most when I was a child, he is just capable. But I also know that being capable is one thing. To be able to create such a big family, you must have suffered a lot. I heard that when you were in Yaok, you were chased by a loach spirit. He, who told you to catch so many loaches when you were a child, retribution is coming. After saying the last sentence with a smile, Wei Xian paused and continued, Brother, jokes are jokes. I have heard from Director Shi and others about everything that happened between you and Teacher Cheng in the Great Mo realm. Let me tell you about my story. After all, you haven't seen me for 14 years, no, more than 100 years. 3 years ago, in 19 years, I joined the army. I also joined the border defense system. At that time, my father said to me, the country has not treated us badly in the years since your brother left. Now that you are an adult, you should do what your brother has not finished. So my father always thought that he forced me to choose the team. I'll tell you a secret. In fact, I had already filled out the registration form the day before he told me. At that time, your team was stationed at the border defense point of the Sichuan-Tibet line. I thought that as a younger brother, I couldn't be worse than my brother, so I went directly to southern Tibet. I'll tell you another secret. In the past 3 years, I have won 2 third-class merits. It's a pity that you traveled too early. Otherwise I would have to send you an emoticon of awesome right now. A breeze blew by, and Wei Xian's voice gradually became heavy. Brother, do you know? In the years since you left, our country has developed very fast. There is a direct train from our hometown to Shanghai, and we don't need to take the green-skin train to transfer in Jichen. And our change has even collected oil from the moon. Even at the negotiating table, we can compete with the eagle. As he spoke, a tear fell from the eyes of the little soldier. But, you can't see all these. Then he wiped his tears, took out a small box from the bag he was carrying, and gently placed it in front of the tombstone. Brother, this is your favorite langaya dumplings, with cabbage stuffing that Mom made herself. The dumplings were frozen as soon as they arrived in Damoji. I put them in the pot just before coming here, and they are still warm. Don't worry about things at home. Mom and Dad are being taken care of by the country, and your sister is doing well too. Another breeze blew by, and the surrounding bushes made a rustling sound. Wei Xian seemed to understand something. He stood up quickly from the ground and saluted solemnly at the tombstone. Brother, I have read the letter you left behind. I know what you are thinking about. You know, Grandpa Xianwang called you the backbone of our country. Don't worry, I will never let the hard work of you and other predecessors go in vain. This is the closest place to home, brother, I promise you. We Chinese have never lacked backbones. Never lacked in the past, not lacking now, and never will lack in the future. As soon as the voice fell, another breeze blew, gently passing through Wei Xian's saluting right hand. The touch of this breeze is clear, as if it were a real person. A green leaf was lifted by the wind, and it spun leisurely when it floated in front of Wei Xian's eyes. It was as if the soul of a pioneer who had passed away for 100 years had returned, and the heroic spirit stood in front of his younger brother, saluting from afar. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.